there, glue it in, build it back into dirt, covered it all with sand, so that everything was still good to go in the morning. It's like,
Ladies and
no
gentlemen,
excavators, no equipment, just
ladies and gentlemen,
shovels and grit and determination. That literally
Hit your
happened at
thing.
5:30.
ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order. Yeah, it's on.
Nobody hesitated. They all just jumped right.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I could call to order this meeting for September 3rd, 2024 for the City of Fort Scott City Commission. Lisa, will you please take roll?
Tim Van Hookey,
Here.
Matthew Wells,
Here.
Dylan Olson,
Here.
Catherine Salisbury,
Here.
Tracy Dancer.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to try my hand at this. In the scriptures, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our city manager, city employees, city attorney, the citizens of this precious city, and for this assembled body of my fellow city commissioners. I'm asking that you graciously grant us wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even if there is honest disagreement, personal peace in our lives and joy in our tasks. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Fort Scott. We ask this in your most blessed name. Amen.
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 Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the agenda, or would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
There are no questions. I would motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. All right. Now the consent agenda. Let's see here. Item A, approval of appropriation ordinance 1367A, expense approval report, payment dates of August 15th through 2024 through August 2024?
31st.
Okay, through August 31st, 2024. The amount of $1,831,904.90. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the consent agenda? Okay.
I would motion that we approve all items A through G in toto for the consent agenda.
A second.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. All right. Item 7, public comment. We have one speaker signed up. Corey Briers for Care to Share.
He'll be under appearances,
Okay, okay.
correct? Am I- or no, is that something different?
Wait, is he under appearances?
No.
No.
Sorry, I'm a week behind.
Okay. Corey? Say again?
Is it too late to sign up?
Do you wish to speak, Kevin?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I didn't know if we'd be able to speak after the comments about, I guess you just about some of the lake in the night.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, I think all we're discussing, I mean, you can
We're
sign
just-
up and speak if you want, but I
Yeah,
think
we're-
what we were looking at was there was a request by a commissioner to find out what the legal process would be and the cost and all those other items. So as far as voting on annexing anything tonight or even knowing what that would look like, we're not there.
Yeah, we haven't even had a discussion, so.
Well, I think there's several people here probably tonight who want to hear about it and probably want to volunteer to speak after they hear what you
Okay, we don't have a plan yet, but, okay. Do you still wish to speak? Okay, okay. So public comment, Corey?
Good evening,
Floor is
Commissioners,
yours.
City of Fort Scott, and anyone else watching out there. Corey Breyer with Care to Share. Just want to remind you that in 3 weeks or less, no, it's 3 weeks and a little bit more, we have Fort Fest coming up down at Riverfront Park. Festivities start Friday night, 6 o'clock. There's a live band from Lynn County. They are excellent. Then there's another band playing Friday night. So that's what you get Friday is 2 bands, a couple food vendors, and 1 drink vendor. Saturday is a big day, starting at noon. Bike show will enter the park and parade around the walk. So if you want to see some pretty cool stuff, come down early. Be there 11:30 or 12 for the bike show. And there's music from 4 different bands, 1 to 7. That should wrap about 8:30. So it's, the bands start at 1, 3, 5, and 7. And you get breaks on that every other half hour or so. Then after that, there is an after party uptown featuring the same band that is closing Friday night. And Sunday, we are having a community gospel celebration. There will be local artists playing keyboards, singing, church choirs. Then there will also be the Roll Nostalgia Car Show, the same car show that was here last year. I think last year they had 93 cars, maybe it was over 100, I forget. We expect to see more than that this year. So pretty impressive, and once again, they will enter the park from the west side there across from Twister, tour around on the trail, and then park towards the front of the park. So you'll get to see some pretty cool stuff. I'm giving back the minutes you gave me the other week, so thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Okay. That is all our public comments. So appearances. We have James Wood, owner of Hometown Pub, speaking about temporary street closure, September 9th, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pine Street from National to the alley for straight out of Clarksdale. Mr. Wood, are you here? Is anyone here to speak on his behalf?
Good.
Okay.
So James and I took advantage of a knowledge of a band that travels around the Midwest. Actually, they travel the world, but they happen to be traveling the Midwest. And Monday night being an off night, we thought we could get them to Fort Scott, and we did. So he is hosting a Mississippi Blues Caravan of 3 world-renowned blues musicians that don't normally play together. They will jam together in Clarksdale, which, if you don't know, it's blues. And they're going to be in Fort Scott, Kansas on Monday night at 6 o'clock. So it's school night, but it's not too late. James is hosting. It should be really cool, and I think he wants to do it on the north side of his business there to accommodate people in a little better environment than the indoor. So I think that's why he's requesting this.
Okay.
And taking a look at his application that's on here, he says he's got a contract with the barricade company already. So that's not an issue. Community music event. I mean, and looking at this is not actually on National. This is west of National, right?
Pine Street from National to the alley.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
If there are no questions, I would motion that we approve the street closure of Pine Street from National to the alley for the benefit of the blues musicians who will be here next Monday.
Seconded.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. And Corey, if you could please pass along a thank you for working together, put that together. Will do. All right. Yeah. All right. Number 2, Diane Stryler. Update on the downtown ice skating rink. MOU.
Diane, will you make sure that the mic is on? Somebody said they couldn't hear
Yeah,
the
the-
last comments.
The red button. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Can you hear me now? Good evening. Hi, I'm Diane Stryler. I'm back here for about the memorandum of understanding for the ice skating rink. So you should have in your packets the updated version of this, but there is one change on here. The last time I was here, we had created a memorandum of understanding between the city and the other party was to be determined. At that time, we didn't know who would be that other partnership with the city. So since then, we've had a meeting of the Chamber Board, and the Chamber Board has agreed to be the other part of the MOU with the city. Another correction on here is timeline. Originally, we wanted this to be from Thanksgiving to the President's Day, but we have decided to make it a little shorter this year, just to make it easier for everyone. So what we would like to do is the week of Thanksgiving, maybe have a soft opening, and the people that have agreed to help donate or towards this have a soft opening that week before Christmas on the Bricks and be able to run things through to make sure everything's smoothly to start for the weekend of Christmas on the Bricks. And then it would go through the first weekend of January, so that Sunday is actually January 5th. So opposed to going all the way through February, it would only be actually 5 weeks that it would be opened. So we are asking for the blessing to go forward with the rink, for the city to be the other part, for the Chamber Foundation to be the partner with the city, for it to go those 5 weekends, to be able to use the area under the pavilion, to use the lighting and electricity for the rink. And I have a couple board members here with me, behind me, if you have questions also.
So Brad, what's the latest on the insurance?
It's still the same. It'll be 1,500 to 2,000 a year.
Okay. At one point, you'd said there was something in there that patrons had to provide their own skates or they wouldn't insure.
She hasn't come back to me
Okay,
on that.
that's
no.
good. And then, Diane, the chamber's going to set it up. The chamber folks are going to make sure it's torn down. They're going to make sure that it's staffed and everything else that.
And
that-
we may have hire some of that out, but we would be the one
Yeah,
overseeing it. Yes, yes, yeah.
And then, as far as the funding goes, you're looking at total donations to fund it.
Yes,
And I've said I would donate to it, but I think
Yes.
what you've got in here now and the fact that you've got that other established entity, yeah, I would be moved to support this,
thank you.
even though it's going to cost me.
It's for a good cause.
I was wondering about the distinction between the chamber and the city if there was to be an accident in which the city was sued or, like a negligence issue. I don't, like insurance-wise, does that pay for our legal counsel even, or how does that end up working? If somebody has like a lifelong debilitating injury, up to what point is the city going to be held accountable to pay for that?
When Brad and I met with the insurance agent, she said it was up to, about, I think, $1,250 for a year. The chamber, we looked into our part of coverage for insurance. I think it was about $250 for the year. We also will be using waivers. And this, it's not, I've talked to a lot of other places that have them, and it's not ice hockey, it's not downhill skating, it's,
Yeah, I understand that people fall in, and
Yeah.
that's part of it, but, if in the event that it was like, somebody wanted to say that there was negligence, I'm just concerned at what point, beyond the cost of our insurance payments, like what would be on the hook for?
yeah. And I guess
Is
it's
there-
no different than the pool or the splash pad or
Gun Park.
gun park or
any of
that.
our-
No,
any of our
it's just
local parks.
another element of exposure, and that's why I was just wondering, so.
I know that, for instance, like I think you guys saw the article that was forwarded on to you that Topeka is now building an ice rink in Topeka, and their main reason is to get beds or heads on beds, and they're putting a real rink in, and it's going to cost them like $400,000 that Topeka is putting on. So this is with Christmas on the Bricks. This would be another thing to bring people here. One thing that I brought up in another session is that last year my nephew came and they did all the things, but then they went to Pittsburgh to go bowling. And I was like, that was sad to me that we didn't have something else, you know, to keep them here. And so many people have told me, like, okay, every year we go up to Kansas City for this. And the store owners that are in the restaurant owners that are supporting this said, you know, Christmas on the Bricks was great, but those next weekends in December were very slow. So the goal is to have, first of all, something for the community, for kids here, a safe activity, a fun activity, very inexpensive, about $5 to skate. They don't have to bring their own skates. But then also to bring people here, that in with some other lights that we're going to add this year. People go for activities with their families for Christmas, so why not spend their money here instead of, I mean, this year Kansas City is having a big Hallmark event where they're bringing in actresses and things like that, so why not keep people here and have a reason for people to come to Fort Scott?
I do like that the change to make it be the holiday season
Yeah.
as opposed to clear through February, because I have a concern about us still having a large section of the year set aside to like
Yeah.
farmers market, and
Yeah.
that just makes the pavilion not available.
Yeah, so
But I do
5
think the
weeks is
holiday
really
makes-
not that long.
The
I mean,
holiday season makes more sense to me.
and I
that,
think
yeah.
it would be tremendous for our commerce of our community.
So Brad, other than the insurance amount and the way this is laid out, where the chamber's going to run it and all, do you have any issues with it whatsoever?
I'm good.
You're good?
So on the funding source, it says the chamber will provide the payments, but what if you go to purchase this? Are you expecting the amounts to cover the purchase and the setup, or?
Well, we have an individual that is paying for half of it. I've had other people come forward that saying that they're going to do or applying for other grants. We will do what we have to get it funded.
Well, I would move to approve the memo of understanding for the Fort Scott Downtown Seasonal Skating Rink.
I'll second.
I appreciate you guys have worked very hard to kind of meet a lot of requirements. You were in here several times, but I think
6.
reading this is going to work, I think, for everybody.
Thank you.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
your
Diane.
hard work.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Diane, just let me know where I need to write you a check. What's that? I know. I just don't want to get left out, Kevin.
We're not gonna let you.
We're so lucky to have people in our community who care so much that they're willing to do things like this and
Yep.
bring the community together. So God bless y'all for all your hard work and dedication to bringing something like this to the people of Fort Scott. Thank you.
MOU is definitely, it answers a lot of the questions that a lot of
Yep.
us had in the past. Thank you for continuing to work on it. All right, unfinished business. Item A, consideration to approve ordinance number 3770, Landbank Board of Trustees, appointment, terms, and dissolution, tabled from August 20th. Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, again, I brought the same ordinance, slightly different, and another version from the last meeting, and I would ask the board to consider approving one of them at this point, just so either Landbank can add another member, or we can reduce the size to, essentially it'll be filled. And then the quorum would be reduced from 4 to 3.
The chair will entertain a motion for reducing the number on the Land Bank Board of Trustees. Unless somebody wants to discuss further.
I would motion that we approve ordinance, is it going to be number 3770?
Well, you got to probably state which version, because I provided 2 versions as well that you would support.
We have a 5 board member and a 7 board member version. Those are the only corrections,
Right.
correct?
Under the 5, the currently appointed, including myself, the board would be full. Under the 7, we'd have to go out for letters of interest for one more position, and then wait to see if the county's still interested in being a partner.
Then I would motion that we move forward with the amendment that changes the board to 5 so that we can continue working as the land bank with the current slate. It doesn't mean we can't add an extra member later or invite the county back on at any time.
I would second that.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury.
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. All right, new business action items. A, consideration of proposed change of zoning regulations, Article 20, supplemental, sorry.
there's one more thing.
Sorry, I skipped, sorry, Leroy, I skipped you. Update of 118 East Wall.
I thought you guys were going to get a email today or sometime last week to meet with Jose this coming Monday at 6 o'clock in a special meeting. So I guess that didn't go out from what I'm being told, so
It did.
it did go out, okay.
It did, but as long as the owner knows anytime all of us together, it's going to have to be a public meeting and likely recorded, so any discussions he'd have would be
And I think-
public record for us.
I think that's fine with him. Being a barber, Monday is his day off, and the only time that he said he could make it up to speak with everyone.
Okay.
The commission okay with meeting on Monday then for,
I can make it.
Yeah,
I'll be available.
I can be, yeah. Can you update the barber, the owner?
Basically, he said that what I was informed from the contractor and from the architect was not the truth in his opinion, and he had a different side of the story.
Oh.
And so I told him that he just needed to make himself available to speak with you all, and, you know.
Do we know if the architect or engineer is going to be available to attend as well?
No, I didn't reach out to them other than to ask them, if need be, if we could purchase those drawings, and they would be at a price of $5,000 to $7,000.
Yeah, that's what we got last time. Did we have any luck actually getting those?
I have not got a copy of them. Did you? We didn't get a copy of those.
No, we'd have to pay for them in order to get them, and I thought we needed to get a little bit more information, especially from Jose, before we spent that money. Because you guys asked to have a meeting with him as well, so I thought that needed to take place first.
I think we kind of wanted that.
Yeah,
Can we
So that
reach
we can
out to
have
the
that
architect
discussion.
and the engineer and see if they would be available for that meeting? At
I
least
can
ask them.
I can ask him. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Did I misunderstand? I thought we had asked for those drawings. Like,
Yeah,
did we-
I thought that's what came out of the last discussion about it.
we've asked, the mayor, I believe, asked for us to go and purchase them, but I want to imply it's still a private business, a private structure, so
Oh,
the engineer was engaged or hired by a private individual, so he has no real obligation to do anything for the city.
No, I get it.
So at this point, to me, it's really up to, is this building owner willing to work with us or not, or do we need to start procedures for repair or demolition?
And I spoke with Brad, and he advised me that this is the route that he wanted to
Yeah,
take.
'cause I guess my thinking is, why spend the $8,000 right now when we have no stake in the game until we get them in here to let us know what they are going to do?
Yeah.
And if they are not going to do anything,
Okay.
then our hands are tied to where we have to do something ourselves. Then we could go ahead and dictate, are we going to spend the $6,000 to $8,000 on an engineering report, or get somebody from an engineering firm here or probably Earl's, the one we use,
Okay.
and see if they can do it cheaper.
Are we looking for a formal, like written document or something, an affidavit of some sort from the owner to that effect? Because we had a discussion with the owner. He came, stood right up there at the podium and, told us that, hey, no one ever told me it was bad. We got the report and, we all received a copy of that report where we read what was in the report. It said, hey, it needs, you need to talk to a structural engineer. Like, okay, well, at that point, he was in here asking us, the city, to help him pay for it. Was he not?
Well, I believe he stated he couldn't afford what the repairs would cost, so I mean,
Right.
Well,
the question is the city gonna pay to fix a private individual's
He had-
property without,
he had stated, though, that when he bought the building, he had an engineer's report and insurance. So where's that original engineer's report?
Isn't that what you just said you got a copy of?
Yeah, man, we had a copy of it.
The engineer report was provided to us, and in it, it clearly stated that there was structural damage to the front of the building
Yeah.
that would have to be taken care of within the next 3 to 5 years, or that the building would structurally fail. So,
But, I mean, originally, when the building owner had come in here, he said he had an engineer's report and was told the building was fine. Until you guys got that report.
Yes.
Yeah, until we actually looked at it and said that, it saw that it did not say it was fine.
Yeah.
When he left, during that meeting,
Yeah.
he went with our economic development person at that time to talk about grants and assistance. During that time, no conversation ever came up from him to the economic development person. Now,
Okay.
the economic development person did try to reach out to him, never got a return call or email. So we've allowed him to try to do his own thing. Leroy's talked to the owner. The owner got an engineer, got a contractor to start working on the windows. It appears to us that they have all quit him or left the scene. Now, the next step is to talk to him to see what he is going to do from here on out before the city has to step in to do something.
We have a continuing and worsening safety issue, right?
That's why Monday's very critical, that we get an answer somehow.
Okay. Can we decide as a body what we want to come out of that meeting? I mean, what are we looking for? Are we looking for an attestation from the owner saying, I'm not going to pay for the repairs?
from that meeting, if it's just a public meeting, we would not be able to take, we could give direction to our manager to take,
Yeah.
but we would not be able to vote on anything
Oh,
until
no.
we either went back
Yeah.
into a special session.
Yeah, yeah, not asking about making a decision, just asking what is the expected outcome of this meeting that we don't already have as a record of inactivity, right? From the last time that we met with the building owner, have any improvements, any situation changed to make that building more safe than it was then? Or is it less safe now? And we have even less time before the cold weather sets in and starts driving, ice wedges between the bricks. What do we want to come out of that meeting?
Well, me personally, if the owner isn't willing to invest in his own structure and the citizens of Fort Scott have to essentially pay probably in the hundreds of thousands to resolve this issue, it should be a city property. I can't support fixing a structure for an individual when every taxpayer should be able to demand that then. Are we going to fix everyone's property?
And there were
Dangerous precedent.
Yeah, there were loans made available. There were community loans brought to the table through the chamber. There were grants and matching funds that were brought to the table. So it's not as if the city has not exhausted every means possible to provide a way for him to be able to accomplish what needed to be done. We are just unfortunately in the situation now where we need a direct answer of, do you have a timetable? Or are you willing to turn this building over to the city so that we don't have another structure fall down in our downtown? Because I would agree with Commissioner Olson that unless that property is part of the city,
yeah.
we cannot expend taxpayers' funds.
Agreed. So Brad, Bob, what do we need to come out of that meeting so that we can take whatever the next step is?
Well, I think that the commissioners have summarized it very well, that we need to have ownership of the property,
Okay?
because we may have a way to spend a lot of money, but actually repair the structure to keep from having a hole.
Well, we had previously discussed that if the city were required to make the repairs to that building, that we would then go and sue the property owner.
Right, but it would sure be easy if he just signed it over, and then we could go ahead and do whatever we wanted to, and we'd own it, we could sell it, we could do, after we got it fixed. I think that's really the key. We need to figure out if he's going to give us the building to do this or not. If he's not, then we have to do what we got to do to protect public safety.
I mean, to me, if nothing's done one way or another, something's going to give, whether it's a year, 5 years. And I don't think it's right to that whole block that we stand aside and do nothing. Unfortunately, that's just a reoccurring theme in our downtown. That don't mean it's not worth saving. I still believe if the owner's willing to do that and we fix it, the citizens may not come out in a complete negative. They're still.
Would we then implement some kind of provision whereby the owner of the building, of a dilapidated building, who signs a property over to the city and lets the city repair the building, is not eligible to then purchase the building once repaired?
Unless they're willing to match our price. I mean,
Yeah,
I'll
you want
be
to get your
honest,
money
if
out
he's
of
going
it.
to come back and be like, I'll pay you every cent that you put into that building plus, I'm okay with selling it back to him at that point if they're willing to.
Well, currently, we have nothing on the books.
Correct.
And I will add, if he passes it on the city, we fix it, and then we decide to sell it, that has to be a commission-approved action anyway. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Leroy. Please let us know if that meeting is not possible, or if the engineer or the architect are not available. All right?
Mayor?
Yes, Bob?
Just ask a favor.
Absolutely.
Well, we've got our attorney here from Wichita to talk to you about a resolution that you were interested in on RHID.
Oh,
And I doubt very seriously this probably is as important to him to listen to all these condemnation things we've got in front of him, and maybe move him up, let him get out of here.
oh, item H.
I know he's not anxious to get on the road or anything.
Does anyone have a problem with modifying the
No.
new business action items to allow
I would
addressing item H?
I would move to
Move item 8.
amend the agenda to move item H and K up before all the other items in new business.
I'd second that.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes?
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes.
Ben's got to say that.
Thank you, Bob.
How much Garth pay you for that?
Ben wasn't on till public hearings.
Ben didn't offer me anything.
Attorneys stay together.
That's right. That's right. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you, Garth Herman, Gilmore and Bell. Bob, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I will try to be quick so then you get back to the rest of your agenda as well. Appreciate you having me out tonight. So as you know, I am the lawyer from Wichita that Bob mentioned. I'm with Gilmore and Bell. We represent the city with regards to your municipal finance and economic development measures. And the resolution that I'm here tonight to help present relates to a reinvestment housing incentive district. As some of you may remember, I was here probably about 6 months ago to give a presentation on those reinvestment housing incentive districts, also known as RHIDs. In essence, they are a state tool that allows cities and counties to designate certain areas within their boundaries. And then within those areas, they can create these districts where, as those properties within the district are redeveloped, the increased value and the increased tax revenue from that value gets reallocated in order to help pay for some of the project costs of those reinvestment housing incentive districts themselves. So the first step in that process, though, is that the city has to take action to make certain findings related to housing in the city and adopt a resolution that ratifies those findings and legally describes, both by written word as well as by inclusion of a map, the areas in town that you would like to have the ability to then create one or more of those districts in the future. Once that resolution is adopted, it'll get published one time, and then it will be sent up to the Department of Commerce for the Secretary of Commerce to review and approve the findings that are set forth in that resolution. Once that approval is granted and accepted by the city, then you would be able to move on to the next step, which is actually creating the specific districts themselves within those areas. So right now we're at the first step. What this resolution does is it describes the current housing market in the city of Fort Scott. It acknowledges that a housing needs assessment was created back in October of 2022 based on the housing needs that were found in there, as well as other evidence provided by the city. This resolution goes on to make certain findings that are required by statute, that there is a shortage of quality housing in the city, that shortage of quality housing is having a detrimental effect on the economic well-being of the city, and that in order to help encourage the private sector to provide additional housing, that certain financial incentives are necessary to help spur that development. This resolution also describes 3 distinct areas in the city where it would like to have the ability in the future to create those districts. Those 3 districts, or 3 tracks, I guess, are included on a map, and the legal description is included in there as well. Tracks 1 and 2 are related to what would potentially be a kind of joint project. They're over generally in the neighborhood of Horton and 19th Street. Track number 3 is located also on 19th Street near Eddy. And those would be the first 3 properties that, if approved by the Secretary of Commerce, then the city could come back in and start the formal process with the developer or developer of those specific projects to start the creation of a district, approval of a district plan, and help redevelop those areas for some additional housing in the city. So as I said, this is the first step in that process. So I'll pause for any questions here, and then once we've had a chance to kind of discuss this, I would ask for a motion to approve the resolution, and then that would also authorize Lisa as the city clerk to arrange for publication in the newspaper, and it would also authorize my firm, working on behalf of the city, to send this resolution up to the Department of Commerce for their review and approval.
My first question would be that, as far as the second story district and a couple of the other properties that we've had associated with this, for them, we will have to do a whole nother resolution and start the process all over again on those additional locations. Would it not behoove us at this time to go ahead and include the second story district and at least one of the other large projects as we move forward, considering the time frame that it will take to move through this resolution, the hearing processes, and everything else?
And really, it is kind of a function of timing. So one way to look at this is, from my perspective, I generally advise our clients, if you have multiple properties that are ready to go, do them in one resolution. If you have some properties that are ready to go, but other ones that they're still, pulling together the maps or the legal description or whatever it is, this part of the process of getting them into housing needs resolution, getting Department of Commerce approval, that's not a very long part of the process. And so a lot of times what I've seen cities kind of handle this is, okay, we have some that are ready right now. Let's get this first step taken care of. And then once those other properties are ready, we can go through the first step again just for those specific properties. I have some cities that do a separate, they do one of these resolutions for each individual piece of property. As somebody comes up and says, we would like to do a district here, they start from step one the whole time. So I think by how the city's handling this, where you know that you have a couple that are really ready to start moving right now. So that's why the decision was made, let's start with those 3 properties in this case. And then for the additional ones, as those are in a spot where they're ready to go, then we can go ahead and do another resolution just for them.
So we have people who are interested in taking advantage of the second-story downtown district. So I'm asking y'all to consider going ahead and approving that as well to be added to this resolution to move forward.
What would be the turnaround time for you to add them? Because the commission did vote and it was passed to add to.
Which properties are you talking about, the second-story districts? Are we talking this one right here across the street?
That would be one of
He's got those. He's got those properties. So that, you don't need to, that's the one, the Moody building. You've got those properties already. So it's already been taken care of. He's just wanting to go forward with the 2 that we've met with, and they've had all their designs given to us. They've got their ducks in a row.
Yeah, one of those, like track 3, that was, we voted on that one.
We voted on all of these.
Yeah. I mean, that was recent. We saw the designs and everything, those duplexes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We're just trying to make sure that, whatever they do is covered under the red. Okay,
It's ready.
okay.
I know we discussed one on Margrave as well, which of course isn't shovel-ready and there's no designs for, but was that included in that as well, or just?
Margrave.
The one out on the end of Richards.
Oh, Richards Road?
The large tract of land.
That's not ready to go
We
yet.
No.
Yeah.
Nobody's came in to talk about that. That is just one person saying, that's not the owner coming in and talking to the group,
Right.
to the commission. So the ones that he is going after are the ones that the owners have come forward and shown the designs, explained to you 5 what their intentions are, to where it is actually laid ground, basically. So that is what he's going after first. And in my opinion, the ones that he's going after are ready to go. Matter of fact, one of them's already broke ground.
Right.
Is the
So-
23 South Main, the old Penny's building, is that one of them? I mean,
The J.C.
that was considered before.
But what we had considered was doing a second-story district for the downtown historic district that would include every building within the downtown historic district.
Okay.
And there would be a second-story rid. So that's what Pittsburgh has done. That's
Gotcha.
what several other communities have done. They just grabbed the historic district and did a second-story rid for the whole historic district. So that was my ask, was to consider adding that to this resolution to move forward with the downtown historic
Residential
district.
development?
Yes.
How many citizens have come forward to present about that?
To a commission meeting? I don't believe any of the 3 that have mentioned it have come forward.
That's why I feel it's important to get this done now.
And not hold this
Because
one
you
up.
have 2 very active,
We can still go back after.
2 very active groups that are wanting to build for the citizens or for visitors, whoever, that want to come into Fort Scott to buy houses. They're very active. One, like I said, broke ground. I wouldn't put them on hold to wait for others.
And you'll help us do it for any others?
Correct.
Okay.
I would move to approve resolution number 25-2024 RHID Housing Needs Resolution as presented.
I'd second it.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Dylan Olson.
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Garth.
Garth, thank you, sir.
All right. Item K, consideration to research legal requirements and estimated legal costs for the city of Fort Scott to annex southward from the currently southernmost city limits along Jayhawk Road and eastward to envelop the Fort Scott Municipal Airport, Lake Fort Scott, and city-owned land adjacent to Lake Fort Scott. So,
I would assume a lot of people are here about this tonight, so does the
Yep.
commission want to hear from individuals before we discuss it, or do you?
all I'm asking is, hey, can we find out the legal requirements to proceed with annexing the land stated here? Not asking to annex it, asking, hey, what would legally be required? And what are the costs? That's my only ask.
I'm not against if it's just to understand what the legal requirements would be. And I'd actually like to further that to squaring the boundaries of our city, if nothing else. But I want citizens to understand it's just legal research. It's not a step forward. It's not an action. It's just knowledge the commission can gain and understand from our legal counsel or any further outside counsel on those matters. I personally don't believe we can legally get to the lake to annex it. But I would like to hear our legal opinion on that.
So we can go ahead and have legal counsel look into this? Can we have legal counsel look into squaring up the boundaries? Can we look into the properties at the industrial park, the golf course, all of the other properties that are city-owned that are currently not within the city limits, and have them provide us an answer on all of that at the same time?
That's what I would suggest, at least.
I would also like to find out what the tax income would be from that, if we could ask Matt quick. Because there's a balance there. I mean, there's a huge
You know,
expense.
if the mill levy doesn't change and
Yeah, just have a
city
ballpark.
taxes are,
Well, there's also quite a bit of expense that would be assumed as
Oh, no,
well. So we
absolutely.
really need to see.
yeah. And that's why I'm asking, hey, what's legally what's required, and then what's the cost? So,
Yeah, I don't believe the mayor's asking for, start putting together a list of properties.
no.
It's just a matter of, is it possible? If it is possible, what steps would it take? And
And does it make sense?
I'm willing to support the mayor on that, just as a matter of fact-finding. If it comes to trying to go towards the lake, I probably won't support that, but I am interested in hearing the legal opinion.
Okay, so do we need anything more than just directing?
It's my understanding that we don't need a resolution, we don't need
I don't
a,
think you do. I
don't need
mean,
a vote.
I think I understand
Don't need a
what you
vote.
want. And I'm not going to prejudge what you're going to get back because it's very complex.
oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure we can reach the lake to annex it. There's just lots of issues that I'd be happy to put together some information for you. Because I
Please.
don't know how you can intellectually discuss it is
Yeah,
without at least that information.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's thought for, you know, it's material for thought, right?
I got it.
Consideration. So, you know, and we are not the first commission to even discuss it. So it's been mulled over.
Did they ever
you know,
find
in
their
quiet
bodies?
corners. I think they all
They're
left
at the-
town.
They're at the bottom of the lake.
Let's hope they find ours.
Yeah,
Can I just make a comment?
Of course, I'm fine with
I don't have a
that.
problem with that.
Play a little extra, but we'll get into
And
that.
I don't know whether it's the way everybody else feels or not, but, and I don't know what kind of money you're going to get into with Bob discussing it and drawing it up and figuring out what all the legal requirements are to bring the lake in or bring any other area in. But the way I feel is, personally, you've done such a great job with the city, you know, and me as a part of that in the past. We have beautiful roads now. We have a great sewer system. We have great water lines that are very healthy to drink out of, and the alleys are looking well, and the ditches are looking great, and storm sewers are all working very active. I just had Brad come over and look at one the other day that's been underground for many, many years, and the ditch is gone. It's flooded the lady's house next door, and she's had to spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to keep water out of her yard. We've got a lot of problems and issues within the boundaries that we already are in charge of in the city of Fort Scott that we can't keep track of. I mean, it's tough. Brad's battling it every day. Phone calls. You guys hear about it all the time, too. And I just hope you really consider that before you try to go for a land grab. And that's what it feels like to me. Like, man, we're sitting on a pile out here. We could really be generating some income off this. You're going to be talking about a lot of stuff you're going to be doing for people out there. I mean, we pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a sewer system that is a real pain in the butt. And it has to, you know, we spend thousands of dollars every year to keep that thing up. And you're going to do that for us now if you start pulling that ground into your thing. I just want you to think about fixing up what you got first before you go buy something else.
We have many things we'll consider.
Well, I understand. Yep. I just wanted to get that out because I feel like it's a little preemptive even looking into it. Go ahead and get your town fixed up and then give us a holler once it's all done.
Thank you, Kevin. All right.
Thought it was your town too.
Say what?
Thought it was your town too. You've always said it's your town. Always said it's your city. The city Allen built.
All right, new business action items. A, consideration of proposed change of zoning regulations. Article 20, supplemental district regulations. Oh, I'm sorry. Did anybody else want to speak?
I have a question.
Ma'am?
On the description on 11, it says, consideration to research, blah, 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 and eastward to envelop the Fort Scott Municipal Airport.
Oh. It does say eastward.
Probably be westward.
I meant westward. Yep, indeed. Thank you.
Did this come because of our trolley trip?
No, it did not. No.
Okay. What inspired the?
Well, you know.
Shouldn't he go to the podium if he wants to talk, Mayor?
Say again?
So people can at least hear what he's asking.
Can we invite him to the podium to make his statement, please?
Approach the podium.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I know the timing of it is, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I understand that we showed you the things that were problems at the lake, and it felt like this came because of the fact that there's things out there that the city needs to deal with and hasn't. And is that part of the reason why you're looking at annexing the lake?
The reason why I'd look at annexing the lake primarily is, yeah, I understand the lake is a great source of, you know, water sports recreation. I understand that it's a great scenic view, whether you have a house or just a property overlooking the lake, right? There's lots of complaints about too many people on the lake, too many boats on the lake, not enough patrolling around the lake. You know, concerns about channel mussels on boats being brought in, about, you know, derelict docks. Currently, there's no codes enforcement at all, right? And, you know, my chief concern, and I expressed this to you when we went on that trolley tour, was that water source out there, the lake, is our clean water drinking source.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if we're to provide any kind of oversight and protection through codes enforcement, zoning, et cetera, we can't do it currently. We're at the mercy of people's goodwill. And yeah. And, you know, there are those of you, you know, who, you know, come to us with lots of concern. You shared some of those concerns with us. You showed us. And, this is not any kind of retribution. This is simply, hey, safeguarding our clean water supply. That's my chief concern.
Oh, absolutely. That lake, first and foremost, is a drinking water lake.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you were there this weekend, you would have seen how chaotic it gets because there is no enforcement.
Yeah.
And that concerns us. Not to say that we want to be annexed, but we do want some kind of enforcement.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, hey, I agree. And we
Well-
can have a coffee shop discussion, or we can have a discussion here at the city
Now,
commission, but we need the input, from legal on the,
When you say enforcement, though, I mean, is that just for the water itself, or what about property that's still owned by the city out there as far as encroachments and items being used and stuff being built into the easement?
Both.
So you're good with both? Because I'm not a huge fan of annexing and going through all that myself either.
But one of the concerns, like I showed you, that dock that was getting ready to deteriorate and fall into the lake, and
Yep.
that is our drinking water, and what we'll do is we'll go out there with boats, pick all that up and clean it up.
Again,
And
your goodwill.
We're the only ones that are gonna do it. And if we had, and I'm not trying to throw Tom under the bus in any way, shape, or form, but we need more enforcement than what we have right now.
I'm inclined to agree with you. The unfortunate thing is that we have a poor city,
Yeah,
and we're providing services that the county should be providing, and that, hey, we have limited resources and lots of things to spend money on. And just, in consideration, once we get, input from legal on the procedures and the costs, to consider whether or not it would be beneficial if the squeeze, if the juice is worth the squeeze, to incorporate, some part of the land between here and the lake, the south end of the lake, so that we could add money to the coffers instead of just selling land, lots for a one-time cash injection.
Understand. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else like to address the commission?
The only thing I would add was that you did say that you think maybe annexing would help you to where you could help control things on the water and things of that nature, lake patrol. I mean, you're already in charge of the water, right? And like 20 feet up on the bank, the city is in charge of it.
30-foot easement,
30 foot, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you own the city parks, so the city cops are already in charge of that. And your lake patrol and everything is already in charge of the water. So the city reserves the right to go out and say anything about docks on the water. So I don't understand what zoning the houses in are going to help you in that aspect, when you've already got legal right to go out there and do anything you want on that water.
I think from my one trip out there, so obviously I'm going to paraphrase that to say I didn't see everything.
You've been there more than once.
Well, but I mean just recently looking at things, thank you. There were items far back from 30 feet that were deteriorating and looked like they were full of chemicals that could end up in the water, and we can't do anything about that. And that wasn't everywhere, and that wasn't widespread. But that was one thing that really jumped out at me. I'm like, we really can't do anything about this.
Right. Well, I don't know about that part.
Yeah, I'm just saying this, so I mean, I agree there's a lot of give and take to look at and a lot of issues, but that was one thing that jumped out at me, that we can't do anything with that private property that would affect everyone.
Right, right. I understand.
There's been construction on the lake as of late, recent, that encroaches on the 30-foot.
Oh, absolutely.
easement. So, but there again, there's no enforcement out there.
And you're right. And for many, many years, I warned many, many commissions before, especially like when you said when you go on the west side of the lake, there's things going on that people just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and it's just been that way. So if you're tightening that up, I understand you got to tighten that up at some point. But before it's just a big grab, that's what I'm here for, because like I say, I could
not looking to orchestrate a land grab, I promise.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a great invitation for me to come back to the meetings if you guys missed me. Or
we all understand
Every
that,
day.
holler at me.
Every day.
we all understand that there's a lot
I'm
to
glad you got to
consider.
see me.
Thanks again, Skitch.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
My name's Dana Davis. I've owned over here since '03, and it's a city lake. And there's supposed to be boat permits for people that boat on this lake. I've had I know people from Missouri that come over, and they said, "Oh, come on over. Nobody's in charge of nothing." And the city of Fort Scott is losing out on revenue by not doing boat permits. I'm just, you could turn around and say the people at the lake, let's say $50. People in Bourbon County, $75. Non-residents of Kansas, $125. It's unbelievable how many people I know that boat out there that do not buy a boat permit. And that's revenue that the city's missing out on. I'm just, you're talking about needing revenue. It's unbelievable the amount of revenue that you're missing out on.
I know. Thank you.
One thing that I will say, though, and like I said, I have visited and spoken with several people that live at the lake. And I appreciate the gentleman that went with us on the trolley tour out there. But you all can go a long ways to police your neighbors as well. When you see something that you know is wrong, that it's not, even if it's just anonymously picking up the phone and calling the city. Where a lot of this stuff started, and I'll say again, I had lake residents call me personally and say, this guy's got this mess and he's on city property. And this one's doing this, and he's doing that on city property. And when I approached that person, they started pointing out other people. Well, if you're going to get this, you got to talk to this guy about this, right? And I even had one, I'm not going to say who, one or two actually say, well, you need to just take care of that and forget about this. I can't do that. Once it's out there and it's exposed, you can't turn a blind eye. You can't do it. So I would like to find a way, and if it's with the help of the lake people that know that you've got encroachments or property on city property, get it off of there. If it's a shed, move it. If it's whatever, move it. You know it's there. Because some of your neighbors have pointed out that it's there, when we were getting complaints about other stuff out there. So anything y'all can do as residents of the lake, and I take my boat out to the lake. I got a permit. I do have a permit on it, lake permit. But it's hard to miss. It's a little yellow 11-foot boat that flies like a bumblebee on it. But if you see something like that happen, and even if it's anonymous, call somebody. As the mayor was saying, there's a new structure out there that's got quite a large encroachment going well inside of the easement that's available out there. And, just keep that in mind. We'll work with you, but it's tough to be told, take care of this, but don't worry about that. I appreciate it.
Brad, as far as the permits go and the policing of the lake, you have a plan that you're working on already to increase the enforcement out there?
Yep, we'll look into it. It's hard enough to find officers.
Mm-hmm.
So taking someone off of our city police to go out there to patrol a lake, or even hiring extra to go out there, is pretty tough when it's not revenue. Boat permits aren't going to pay for a full-time member. But we'll see what we can do.
I'd make a motion that we deputize Bob Farmer immediately. We'll give him a golf cart and turn him loose.
I think I would need your vote.
But back on topic, I was kind of stay out of the comments. While I support the fact-finding for Mayor Dancer, there are some prohibitive things about annexing. You take control of the roads that go to the lake. You take control of the water lines, and in doing so, you'd have to reimburse the rural water district for essentially taking their customers in their area.
And you're talking about another fire station.
Police.
One thing you really need to look at on that also, and I'd like Chief Bruner to come here and talk next meeting, is our ISO rating on our home insurances.
Okay.
Because that is dictated by response times.
Mm-hmm.
And if our fire department has to go all the way to the lake on a call, that dictates that
think that's
response
what
time. And that could
Commissioner
really,
Sals- yeah, I
that
think-
could really hurt us.
I think that's why Commissioner Salisbury asked for, the
tax.
economic impact, right?
Yeah.
The additional tax revenue.
Yeah, I mean,
That
if it's not,
annexation could
I
result
think that
in.
tells you pretty quickly whether anything's possible or not. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, that would cover,
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
say that would cover your fire department and things like that.
Yeah, and then
Mayor, I think this gentleman here do you have some comments?
Harold?
Yes, I do. I've come before this committee several times over several years with regards to the lake and have brought forth some of the things that you've spoken about, and the committee that the city formed provided input regarding solutions for some of those things, like adding patrol to the lake, getting the lake cleaned up, those kinds of things. And the committee was dissolved. So I don't know if this board didn't want to hear from the committee or we weren't providing the right kind of input.
I wouldn't say this board don't want to hear from you, sir, but when it comes to, from my perspective, when it comes to expenses at the lake, the city doesn't make very much.
We're not talking, we gave solutions that didn't cost money, that wouldn't cost the city money.
Everything the city does costs money.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
It would have
holding the
cost you
meetings.
$7 a year, okay, if that's a little
When it comes
much,
to
we could have
water
donated that.
enforcement, we could make the lake completely boat-free, but that'd remove your boats too. We can't allow you to have boats and the public not to have boats. That's a public
Okay,
lake.
You weren't on the committee, Mr. Olson. When I spoke, I think Mr. Van Hookey was here, Brad was here, Mr. Farmer, and Matt Wells. And they know what benefit the Lake Committee provided and the input that we provided to this committee. And the Lake Committee was dissolved.
Well, the Lake Advisory Board, the
Yes.
city Lake Advisory Board was dissolved,
Yes.
right? But you as private citizens are still free
And
to convene any
and we
meetings you
will
want.
come talk to you.
Oh, I know,
privately.
I know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Please do.
We wouldn't expect anything less.
Not from me, you wouldn't. I know that.
Now, I hope I've bridged and somewhat mended the schism, if you will, between city residents and lake residents. It was my snarky comment to Diane's husband months ago.
I am not aware, doesn't make any difference to me.
Yeah. Now, I hope that I've bridged, the communication gaps. That hey, we do want to hear from you. We do hear you. We will consider what you say.
Well,
The dissolution of the Lake Advisory Board was administrative.
As was the Golf Course Advisory Board and many other boards.
Airport Advisory Board.
But those folks still have the open opportunity to come in here whenever to address ideas or concerns.
okay.
Okay?
I think, as Dana stated, you're missing revenue opportunities that could provide you income to use wherever you want to use it and not hurt anyone in the county or anyone in the city doing it.
And that may be one of the, resolutions we adopt.
And we've made those suggestions 5 years ago.
Okay? Thank you.
I'd just like to further add, there will be an expense coming in the form of a lift station. And while I think it's my understanding lake residents do pay a fee towards the city for that service. Annexation, that just broadens the tax base. So yes, lake residents would be paying city taxes. City residents would actually see somewhat of a decrease unless the city raises the mill rate or what forth. But I still believe the logical approach is to subdivide more land and sell it responsibly, up our enforcement of the lake, and resolve these issues with encroachments.
That's a discussion that we have not yet had in depth.
Yep.
So maybe we need to, please invite you to, during your comments at the end of the meeting, please propose meetings.
Yep.
All right. For now, if we could proceed, new business action items A, consideration of proposed change of zoning regulations regarding storage containers. Leroy, you have the podium again.
I think Leroy's going to have the podium for quite a while tonight.
Everybody got a copy of what I typed up, correct? So I don't need to read that out loud. Basically, Brad asked me to put this together for you guys because this is becoming a very popular thing. I called various other cities and I listed what they do in their cities. And basically, the way we stand right now, the way the code is written, it doesn't spell out these Connex boxes at all in my understanding of the reading. Other people have read it, and they kind of agree that it might, but either way, I look at it, whether you guys choose to let it happen or choose not to let it happen, this code needs to be rewritten.
I agree with you. I've reviewed the zoning sections on this, and as far as I can tell, it bans Connex in the city, and we have a ton of Connex containers.
In residential areas, yes.
Well,
and my personal thoughts on that is, I've had some people reach out to me on that. To me, if someone wants to build a garage or a shed, that's great. But if you've got to go out and sit in your backyard and look at a Connex trailer next door, I've had some folks that have called me and voiced concerns with that, and I can reasonably see why, because there's provisions in there, I know, that are spelled out that states it has to be so many feet from the neighbor's property line and so many feet back and everything like that, and has to be painted a similar color to the house. But once it's in there and it's dropped, and it's not in the right place, who's going to move it? If it doesn't get painted, how many times this code's going to have to go out on neighbors' complaints and tell them, hey, you've got to paint this. You can't leave that shipping name on the side of it. I think it's really opening up a whole lot of issues. I think it's, especially in our historic district, it would be detrimental to the appearance from the road for visitors or people that were planning on coming down here and develop. So those are my 2 cents on amending it. Now, has this gone to the Planning Commission since it's a zoning change?
It has not.
Because, before we make any decisions or even talk about it, since it's a zoning change, shouldn't that go to the Planning Commission first?
Yeah, and the way I look at it is, like I said, either way, the wording is not great, and it needs to be changed for or against. Because in the wording, it says anything that's basically hauled in by a tractor trailer. Well, those aren't. And
I have one question. Now, as it relates to current situation, have we issued any citations to people who have shipping containers in their yards in the residential areas? Because we do have a current city ordinance prohibiting such.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Your current city ordinance as written, I do not agree that it's written to include.
Oh, to
these.
include Connex?
I don't think that the verbiage in that spells out for these Connex boxes.
Okay.
And basically, when I read it, I get basically the trailer off a tractor trailer. I mean, it's not a storage. Nowhere in there does it say storage box or storage container. The verbiage doesn't.
And the verbiage says 18-wheeler with the wheels attached to it.
Basically, basically it
But
says.
we all know what sits on top of those wheels is the box itself.
Well, there are special regular trucks
Yeah.
that haul these things around.
Yeah, like the FedEx
Flatbed.
one that's over there off of 12th Street.
And also in the verbiage, it talks about axles.
Yeah.
Okay, well, those don't have axles. So no, I don't agree that it's spelled out enough for me to write a ticket and then
Okay.
have somebody go to court. I don't know. I don't think I could win that fight.
So is the proposal then to amend the current verbiage to include shipping containers as a prohibited structure, or to allow them?
I was told to look into it and give you guys basically what other cities are doing, let you guys make the decision on whether you wanted them or not, but either way, for or against, the verbiage needs to be changed on the ordinance.
But from a zoning standpoint, would that still need to go in front of the planning commission? Or are we just rewriting an ordinance, Bob, and calling it good?
I think.
Because some of these things are 40 feet long.
I think
in my
Commissioner Olson has
opinion,
a comment.
you know, there's a lot of these around the city already, so the change is to propose that they have to paint it and keep it a certain corner of the property already. I honestly don't think this is worth attacking citizens over myself when it's already happening. You could stick the Fort Scott motto on it, but
I mean, they're not good as garages. I mean, the things are 8 feet wide. You get
no,
a car
but
in there,
people
you can't
use
open
them
the
as
door.
storage. I mean,
Right.
I mean, I've yet to see a house built out of one, even though I know that's.
Oh, yeah. That's probably coming.
It'll come.
It's an engineering possibility. I've seen it done.
Yeah, fire department's building a training structure.
That's a swimming pool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you provide us, before we would be to vote or go forward on this, you said you've looked at other municipalities. Can you provide us copies of what theirs is?
He did on
It's on the
here.
back.
Yeah, it's on.
On the back?
Chanute, they allow garage
That's right.
storage, must paint must match the structure. Home use has to be engineered and approved by codes. Parsons, they allow it at the back of the property. Same thing. Iola, they don't allow them. Pittsburgh, same spot we are, trying to figure out their position on them.
Basically,
kind of
when
a
I
grab
spoke
bag
to
of
Pittsburgh, I think
choices.
they're going to probably, look at what Chanute and what we do with
Do
this.
their ordinances, are they more specific about shipping containers?
Yeah,
versus-
I haven't read. I just talked to the head of
Yeah,
code,
that's what I mean. I'd like to actually see
head of code
a
to this
copy of the
department,
ordinance.
and they basically just told me the breakdown on what they do and how they allow it.
Are you asking for a copy of
their actual ordinance. I mean, I understand that you pulled out the highlights and in here, and I appreciate that, but
Now,
Yeah, and-
I would add, you could exempt the historic district from those approvals. You could
Oh, the
say it's not
historic
allowed.
district
with
is
the-
exempt from that. You know, they.
Yeah, they have design
I've
review
been
board.
on the phone with the State Historic Preservation Office over all kinds of things in the historic district. And, yeah, this would definitely have to go before the State Historic Preservation Office for approval, if we were to make this change.
Well, I'm just saying
Yeah.
you can exclude them from the change.
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
you-
Yeah, the, what is it, the H District downtown?
okay.
So what we'll do is go back, get copies of other cities' ordinances, and then we will bring our recommendation. But I will say, if you go with whatever city it was that said no Connex boxes,
Yeah, Iola.
The big question then will be, what do you do with
You do the ones that are already
50
here.
that's already in the city that's been there for 20 years? I mean,
Well, I mean,
we're actually, we're being questioned to correct something that's been going on for years and years and years.
Seems like
So
there's a
that's what
lot
we
of
need to
that.
do.
A lot of correction of stuff that's been going on for years. Not before you got here, before we got here, but
Yeah.
a lot of it is correcting stuff that's been going on.
Yeah.
I know that, like I said, we have not just the historic district, but we have some very historic neighborhoods as well, with some beautiful houses out there. And I mean, the people that are keeping that up, you know, should they not at least be considered before 2 40-foot Connex boxes get dropped in the backyard of their neighbors that they look at every time they go out in their backyard?
We do have to keep in mind that this is not an ordinance, this is a zoning regulation, and it follows a different procedure. Any kind of change to this, it's my understanding.
Has to
and
go to
I
the
could
planning
be
commission?
wrong. Well, the city commission or the planning commission can bring it up for change, but it has to follow the same procedure as far as a public hearing. We have to go through that process before, because it's
Okay.
not just an ordinance. This is a zoning regulation.
well, we need to have that hearing. But, you know, Leroy and Brad, if you guys could, like you said, just research the other cities, find out what their current enforceable ordinances are, you know, and what they do and how they enforce, if they enforce.
Well, I think this is just, I guess, an old law enforcement guy talking. If I don't like the statute, or if the statute doesn't meet the crime, then you can't charge it. Well, the way I read this, in my opinion, it doesn't constitute the ticket. So, if you want it enforced, you basically just
We'd have to change it.
You got to change the verbiage.
Change it anyway.
Yep.
Could you possibly get us at least one from Kansas City area as well, just as a reference for what they're doing to handle it?
I could. I just try to keep
No,
everything
no, I
apples to
appreciate
apples.
that very much. I'm just,
Yep.
because I know they're all over the place up there, and I just like to see.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
I think
Okay.
he's still up there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still up there. I got
Larry, I
item
do
B.
appreciate your hard work on this very much, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but I mean, it's.
It was just an assignment. You're
Oh,
not
I know.
bothering me a bit.
I know.
Yep. We have consideration of resolution number 19-2024, demolition proceedings for 1721 East Wall. Oh, before we do that, Lindsay, did you have a comment about what was currently being discussed?
No, I was just trying to process what you were saying. So are they currently allowed in the historic district or not? Or is there a time limit? Or is that, are they not, are they currently in the gray area? I was just curious.
Well, if there's a contractor like doing work on Main Street down here, remodeling, and they've got their tools and stuff in a building in there, I'm sure that's a temporary thing that's going to be there, and it's usually coned off and blocked off. But as far as putting a permanent Connex trailer, I don't think they're supposed to be in the historic district at this time, no.
Okay. Because the one at the depot lot has been there for several years, and it's just not, I mean, I've asked people about it, and I'm told there's, it is full of,
I think it's full of historical items from the Historic Society.
I asked about that to Brian, and he said that it's none of their contents. But so I was just curious because that is just right when you come into town and right across. But I was just trying to. I'm not
It's the owners.
condemning that particular one, although it would be
Piece of
nice if it was at least located somewhere that's not right there. And it's been there for at least 2 years. So I was just trying to clarify from what you were saying.
Okay.
I know. Can we paint it red and green to go with Christmas on the bricks? No. So I was just trying to clarify, kind of related to that specific one, because I've asked several people about it, and it's just the people that now own that's a private property now. So
That's good too. Thanks.
and I'm told Brian said the contents are not HPAs or anything.
Okay.
Okay.
is what
Right.
I believe he told me.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Leroy, 721 East Wall.
Basically, this house, this one is on Norm's side of town, but the owner has, from what I understand, no intentions of doing anything with this house, and it's very dilapidated, and it's going to just continue to get worse right there as you come into town.
I had a chance to drive by and look at all of these. As you guys, did you get an opportunity to go by and look at them? Okay. I would make a motion to approve consideration of resolution 19-2024 demolition proceedings for 1721 East Wall.
Second.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. All right. Leroy, 323 West Wall.
This house is basically very dilapidated. I've spoken with the owner and the owner's daughter. They don't have funds or plans to fix it up, and don't have objections to it being torn down.
They have no objections to it. Well, regardless, I mean, as a reminder, and Catherine, I know you're new for this, is we're going to, any of these we approve tonight, there will be, the homeowners will have an opportunity still to come in here to the meeting and do it. So this is just the approval process for moving the proceeding forward.
Thank you.
So with that said, I would make a motion to approve resolution number 2024 demolition proceedings for 323 West Wall.
Seconded.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
No.
Dylan Olson,
Yes. Tracy
Dancer.
Yes. All right. Resolution 21-2024 demolition proceedings for 1619 East Pine.
On this house, basically has slid off its foundation. It's currently falling in. The gentleman that owned the house passed away. I spoke with his son, who I've known forever. He said that it wasn't worth the money to have put in his name or pay for the demo costs, so he plans not to do anything with it and like to see it torn down.
I would move to approve resolution number 21, 2024 demolition proceedings for 1619 East Pine.
Seconded.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. Resolution 22-2024 demolition proceedings for 1105 Scott.
This house is in disrepair. The roof is sagging. We basically send letters to this place all the time about lawn care and about the city mows the lawn each summer, and we've sent them letters to fix the house. We've sent them letters letting them know we were going to demo the house. They're from California, and they used to keep in touch with us, and they no longer respond to any of our.
Besides the lawn on the roof, was there any other structural concerns that you saw?
Yeah, there's a stairway that goes up to like a second floor apartment that's in pretty raggedy shape. The whole house it would need a lot of work.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution 22, 2024 demolition proceedings for 1105 Scott.
we have a second?
Seconded.
Matthew Wells,
No.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
No.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. Resolution 23-2024, demolition proceedings for 402 South Loman.
This house is another house that's in really bad shape. The yard looks terrible. The lady that owned it passed away. The son has has indicated to us that he's not going to do anything with it. He advised someone's went in the house and stripped the copper and the wiring and they basically aren't going to do anything with the house. So
Structurally?
the back end is in really, really bad shape. There's no doors and stuff like that on the back. And I've when I went to red tag it, I kind of peeked inside, and it's been open to the elements for a while. It looks pretty rough in there.
We have a motion to approve Resolution 23-2024.
I'd move to approve Resolution 23-2024 demolition proceedings for 402 South Loman. I've been by that home. It's pretty rough.
Do we have a second?
I will second on that one.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. Resolution 24-2024, demolition proceedings for 418 South Couch.
This particular house is in horrendous shape. The yard is in horrendous shape. This house is an extreme eyesore. This house has been a house that has been a flop house and a problem house, a nuisance house in Bourbon County for many, many years. And I've been inside that house many times in my law enforcement career, and it's rough inside and out. There is people currently squatting in this house that have been told to leave, and they continue to stay.
Okay. Have the current owners been contacted? Do they have any?
Well, I should have. The legal owner has passed away.
Mhm.
So there is no legal owner.
No
for this
next
property.
county, no.
There are two daughters. Last I knew, the one that actually stays around here is incarcerated.
Okay.
But there's no legal
No
owner.
one with means? Okay.
Yeah.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve or reject Resolution 23-2024, demolition proceedings for 24-2024 for 418 South Couch.
I would move to approve resolution number 24, 2024, as presented.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
No.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. Item I.
I think that's all for, is that all for you, Leroy?
I think that's it.
Thanks so much for hanging around the meeting, for all your hard work. We appreciate it.
So item I, consideration of change order number 1, project number 22049, Horton Street and 6th Street improvements. Contract number 6, 2455-01 Heck and Wicker, Inc., for an additional inlet protection, concrete pipe encasement, sanitary sewer service, extra pothole work at 8th and Horton, tree removal at 7th and Horton. $4,810. Jason.
Yeah, so with that change order, I think we had a couple email attachments and various kind of descriptors of that. So really just to summarize, it was unanticipated extra work that had to be accomplished. One of them was a sewer line where we crossed, what street is that, Sunset? I can't remember, but it was already, unbeknownst to us, it was already concrete encased, so it had to be re-encased. So that was part of it. For all the work, honestly, that they did, that's a pretty good price.
Yeah.
The extra work at 8th and Horton was really very time-consuming. We were trying to find the tie-in of the existing water lines over there, which was kind of a goose chase, we'll call it. But that was a lot of extra effort for that. So.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to approve change order number 1.
I would motion that we approve change order number 1 for project number 22049.
I second.
Jim Van Hookey?
Yes.
Matthew Wells?
Yes.
Bill Olson?
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury?
Yes.
Tracy Dancer?
Yes. And item J, Brick Street Policy Revisions Discussion. Brad?
So talk to Commissioner Wells about this. With our process that we're doing with concreting the intersections, it does not follow the Brick Street policy, so I talked to him about that. We will have to get this revised if it's voted on. Matthew, if you'd like to discuss more. Go ahead.
What Brad has brought up is that several of the intersections that we're going to be working on, there's going to be some infrastructure repairs. It's going to have to be torn up. And we have found, as you can see in the amendments to the Brick Street policy, that creating a concrete barrier at certain locations does help the shift of the lateral bricks. The question here is that the way the amendment had been written, we were not allowing for brick streets to be completely removed where a brick street abutted another brick street. It would simply be the intersections on roads that were no longer brick streets. So, instance would be 3rd and National.
Yep.
That would be an intersection that would be perfectly acceptable under the current writing to go ahead and tear up, reconcrete, and put back in.
Just the intersection.
Just the intersection. So what we're wanting to do is to create an area where the Public Works Director or the Street Department Director can bring which intersection they want concreted, and then we would still be able to say whether it would be more beneficial to put the aprons or to do the whole intersection.
Well, that wasn't part of the deal. Now, wait a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
So before we do an intersection, we've got to come to the commission?
If it is a intersection that's in great shape right now, if it's one of the trashed ones that we've talked about, I don't think there's going to be...
About 3% maybe I'll have to bring to the commission.
Right.
Well, I guess
that's okay.
I have a question on
We'll take
on
that
that
then.
policy though. So let's
But-
just take 3rd Street and Margrave as an example. During school time, that's a pretty busy intersection, and the intersection itself is brick, but you have concrete and asphalt that abuts it on 2 sides. Would it not make more logic for an intersection like that to be concrete and be a smooth transition rather than keeping the brick there?
I would say with your bus traffic and when
I'm
it's
just-
not supposed to be, somewhat truck traffic, I would agree with that.
I just kind of the logic applied to brick intersections. I mean, I know we've replaced a couple over here that's brick on brick, but in situations like that, I think it shouldn't even need commission approval because Margrave isn't a brick road anymore essentially, and
I can tell you that just in where I live at, where you all replaced the intersection there at 8th and Wilson, I think it's actually stabilized the bricks on the north side, having the concrete in there.
And it has on
reinforced
St.
it
Mary's
as a
and
whole.
Eddie.
At St. Mary's and Eddie's.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we had talked about, is anywhere that you can use a concrete apron like that on the brick, it will stop the lateral movement and the transition of the bricks, especially with the heavy trucks. The reason I would have a problem with the 3rd and Margrave one in particular is because Eugene Ware is on the National Historic Register.
Which I get that, but
And 3rd Street is brick, and Margrave is brick all the way from 6th Street out to Wall Street.
I just bring
Yes,
that
sir. Yeah.
specific one up because up until last year with the Cape Seal preparation improvements, as someone who lives on the east side, that was one of the worst intersections in town to turn on just because of the transition. You know, and I know there's more all over town like that, but just using that example.
Right.
I'm for it, but I'd really have enough trust still in city management and city staff to make the decision. If there's one in question that's in a historical area, I would ask, unless you want to go out right now and mark off all the ones that they have to come get permission for in the case that those are going to be replaced. I don't want to slow down progress for them either.
I really don't think there's going to be that much difficulty figuring out which ones we have to do and not do. I've said this on the radio show. Our goal is to concrete the intersections so our brick crew can go in between the intersections, replace the potholes with the bricks. And I explained this to Matthew earlier, then follow that up by putting some kind of sealant on the bricks to where that will create the longevity of our roads. I talked to all of you before about water, sewer, and street plan. That's out of the question because it's over $20 million. We're too far in the woods to go for something like that. But this is our next best case, is to concrete the intersections to where the bricks are solid in between, to where there's no movement. When a pickup truck or even a car starts and stops, the bricks aren't adjusting at the intersection. Because once the bricks start moving, they just keep moving all through. And a lot of our brick intersections are pretty bad. So we're going to be busy for a few years just to get that done, especially since we have so many other projects to do. But
is the city considered buying a Powerball ticket?
I'm not sure we could do that even if we approve it.
So we already had considerations within the policy for a 20-foot apron abutting either side of a brick street, allowing that brick street to go all the way through. So like down here in the historic district where you have an intersection that's brick, and then on all four sides, you have the apron holding all the bricks tight. So doing similar in certain situations on other roads where it would be needed.
we have a plan already in process to do certain intersections. I can bring that to you, 5 to look at. And if you want to take the list, go to the intersection and say, these aren't too bad, I would still recommend doing the 4.
Yeah.
But I don't, for the first year, I don't think you're going to find any that's not needed. I'm not sure if we'll even get to them all in the first year, the ones that are really needed, because we're still fighting some of the flood damage.
What is, how large of it, are the Brick Street crew, is they're predominantly focusing on patching? They're not like replacing roads?
They're working on St. Mary's right now. That's a pretty good size,
It's
but
St. Mary's, but I mean.
but other than that, no, they're just patching right now.
Worse than that, have you driven, I'm sure you have, 7th Street east on Eddy towards National?
I've been there a few times.
That's like
Yeah.
driving a minefield to keep from losing a tire on that.
Yeah.
On the bricks.
Yeah, I mean, hoping we'll get there. I mean, we've got a lot of others too. But we also have to look at some of the roads, we may need to replace all of it.
Yeah.
And do something different. You want me to?
Sure. I think we had a comment.
Go ahead, sir.
I apologize for not jumping in when we were discussing the lake. I just have one quick thing I wanted to bring up. I'm Bob Talbot. I've been at the lake 30 years now.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Hi. And I've sent Brad a text today. And I just want to address the rearing pond real quick. I'm just wondering if there's any way, and Brad, I've talked to you about this, why we couldn't put an aerator in there instead of dumping the water out of the lake all the time. I know you said it's not much, but I'm watching the lake go down. It's down 3 feet now.
Okay.
So, and you know, you can't depend on rain. We don't know when we're going to get rain. Why can't we just utilize the water that's in there and put some sort of aerator system in there? You know, when you and I talked about this before, you said you turned the water back on because of all the algae on
The green algae,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. Well, if we had an aerator system in there, and I've talked to Tom about this many times, he said it's nothing to throw an aerator system in there.
Well, it is because it's not that deep.
Well,
The water's not that pond's not that deep. So I go by what Don George says. He's our fish and game guy. And an aerator in that pond, he said, is not good for those fish because of the size of the pond and the depth. So that is why they keep the water running. Now, this year, I hope you're honest, that water hasn't been running very much at all this
I
year.
agree. It didn't.
And that was my promise to you and the other lake residents, is not to run that water until we just had to do it. And the green algae came because of lack of rain. And so we ran it so the fish were not killed. It won't be running much longer. I'm not sure, is it running now?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a 4-inch pipe and it's running less than 2 inches right now. I'm not a mathematician, so I can't tell you how many gallons that is. I'm sorry the lake's going down. It's not near as bad as it was last year, so I hope your docks are still floating. But the fish will be out in less than a month, about a month. So that worry will be over and we won't have to mess with it till next year.
Okay, well, I'm going to do some more research, and I just think there's something else that could be done to, instead of just draining the water out of the lake like that. You know, we could get.
I've got your text message, so I can send you Don George's phone number.
I've talked
If
to
you-
Don. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been going on for quite a while. You know, for 2 years we was in that drought.
Mhm.
I understand. And it went on even while we was in the drought. Rearing Pond was still pumping water out of that lake. And,
But according to the mathematics of the amount of water going into the rearing pond from that overflow, you're basically equating to about 1 inch off of the lake over the course of the entire year, mathematically, for how much water's flowing in. So even shutting off all the water going to the rearing pond, that means you're going to save 1 inch over the course of the entire year.
I can't agree. That's what Don's going to tell you is that is about equivalent to evaporation when it's a hot day.
It's just, it's such a minuscule amount of water in that particular instance that's flowing into the rearing pond, based on the hectares of the actual lake itself. And
Yeah, and we're not drawing from the lake, and we haven't drawn from the lake.
Not on the valve, no.
So the lake level going down, that's just lack of rain and heat that we've had.
Evaporation,
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I can agree with the perception. I mean, that's why last year before, I kind of threw a fit with Dawn is, we're not getting any rain and here's water running all the time. I mean, I can see his point.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this year, I felt like we're in a prime area where we could run it.
You know, if we don't get rainfall or snow and next spring
Then we'll have to do
is
something
dry, it's something this commission would definitely have to evaluate, though.
Bob, have we addressed your concerns?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
Sorry,
We
back
can-
to the brick.
We can get
policy.
together.
Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because
That'll be fine.
technically, under item B of Amendment 1, it may, upon the advisement of the Public Works Director or Street Department Director, be done as a concrete intersection if it is deemed necessary.
Oh, okay.
So according to that amendment that we passed on the first day of August last year,
Sweet.
you have the authority on those bad intersections to go ahead and do what needs to be done to save those streets.
Concrete them all, Brad. No, I'm kidding.
I'll bring you a list. Let's go to the public hearing.
All right. Public hearings.
No, he's calm.
Very peaceful.
Make a motion for, how does this go? I haven't done one of these before.
We have to open the public.
So-
Yeah, move to
We have
open
a-
the public hearing for the 2025 budget hearing and consideration of resolution number 26-2024, a resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
Second.
Tim Van Hookey?
Yes.
Matthew Wells?
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury?
Yes.
Dylan Olson?
Yes.
Tracy Dancer?
Yes.
So this is the first of two public hearings. This is merely as a resolution just to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Revenue neutral rate was 41.362. The levy that's currently being considered in the next public hearing is 44.208 for the 2025 budget.
As I'm sure the other commissioners are aware, there are probably, I don't want to speak for the other commissioner, but at least myself is not in favor of exceeding this. We would like to see a cut to the mill levy. So, making that statement. I don't know how the other commissioners feel.
I feel we could trim a little bit off a flat mill levy myself, so, you know, I understand the other entities around here are probably going to stay mill levy flat, and maybe we could be the exception and continue the trend of the past few years of saying, you know, even if it's small, the city has continued to dedicate their efforts and efficiency and lower that mill levy little by little.
And I appreciate wanting to do that, but then with the municipalities you've been working with year over year, basically the same categories that we're looking at. What kind of inflation did we have in 2024 generally overall?
4 to 8%, depending on the commodity that you've got.
4 to 8%.
Yeah, and that's the
With the
non-personal.
uncertain political environment we're in right now and
It'll
some
be
of
more
the
than
things
that.
that are going on around the world, it could very well exceed that next year. My only concern with that is, I mean, to me, keeping it flat without a reduction based on what is going on, what the cost of things that we're seeing when we get the financials each month that come in, and some of us even questioning, you know, why is this up this much? With the good progress that we have going on in the city right now, and knowing what the county is looking at, more so what the college is looking at doing, I always love to give a cut. I'm not a fan on taxes and of giving reductions where it can, but I think we got a pretty uncertain year coming up next year, both politically, nationally, and from what I'm seeing in the company that I work for, some uncertainty on what cost of goods and products and everything else may be. So I'm
I
going
would
to
say
err on the
that's
side of
all the
caution.
more reason to try to contain expenses as much as you can to what's a need and not what's a want. You know, and
What
in
do you
this
think,
budget-
though, based on what you saw in our capital expenses and requests that came in from this year, that was a luxury and not a
Well, I'd say
necessity?
for the parks, we don't necessarily need a carport or a concrete pad. For the golf course, I sincerely think we're overestimating there, and maybe I'll be wrong, but.
Golf course actually, correct me if I'm wrong, actually makes money, doesn't it, Brad?
It's not part of the general fund.
And it's not part of the
It's not
general
levy
fund.
funded.
And Parks, it actually goes with their tax
It's separate from the general fund, but if there's a deficit, it comes from the general fund.
And we are continuing to fund the 911 dispatch, correct?
And it's
That does
another
come out of general
issue,
fund.
but
Yeah. So we're providing services that we have no statutory obligation to provide. The county is paying for a trivial amount. And we're considering exceeding revenue neutral so that we can continue providing services that the county is supposed to provide. Yes?
I mean, that's a little misleading statement, if I can, Mayor. That's a little bit misleading.
Okay.
Because the budget's not solely dependent on the county. The revenue neutral rate is the rate at which you get the same property tax dollars as you did this year for next year.
Yep.
So the revenue exceeding that revenue neutral rate would be a flat mill levy, 44.208. I don't have the math in front of me of what that levy decrease would be if we stopped providing dispatch, but I doubt it will be 3 mills. Maybe it will.
I don't think, doing the math, I don't think that'll be 3 mills.
Yeah. My bigger concern, I'll just, some of the facts, I'm not here to provide my opinion. Some of the facts included in the budget, the current general fund total revenue is increasing 3%. Our personnel, all funds, all wages and healthcare, everything else is increasing around 12%. Healthcare is increasing 13% of that number. Increases in non-personnel is 3 to 4%. And the current 24 forecast shows general fund revenues barely meeting expenses. Sales tax right now is 0. There's no growth whatsoever over the last year, which in the last 2 years have been a revenue driver, and this is all revenue side. We shifted money out of the general fund to provide a permanently fund economic development funds, and that would also capture any unspent appropriations down into the economic development fund for future use. So there's more money that's been pulled out of the general fund on top of that. For public safety purposes, we funded 2 cars, rope rescue, water rescue equipment for fire, pothole patcher dump truck, which would come out of the general fund as well. Streets improvements, $957,000. Wastewater equipment infrastructure, $775,000. Water equipment meters, $310,000. There's a good amount of equipment and cost in this. As far as the wage increases, the 3% for non-public safety, 4.5% for public wage increases for public safety across the board. That's police and fire both.
Is 911 dispatch included in public safety?
That's communications. That's not included in the 4.5.
Okay.
They're on 3%. But yeah, it's included in public safety. It's just not that level.
Well, we're not paying capers on those. That's
Communications
KPNF,
is caper,
right?
not
They get
KPNF,
capers,
right?
yes.
Yeah, there's capers.
not in the budget, it wasn't.
That's been changed. That was part of the follow-up questions.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So what was the significance of lowering the mill levy 3 mills?
that's if you just said the county has to do the 911 now.
And
But-
with their current situation, it's not, that's not a possibility, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not speaking for them, I'm speaking for a citizen.
No, I
It's just not feasible, and
So my
to our
question-
citizens, we
my
can't do
question
that.
to people watching, listening, and sitting here at this commission is when will it become feasible? Because there is no incentive for the county to start providing those services out of Hyde, to start budgeting to pay for those services, so long as we are providing them.
I agree with you, but I also would, if we just said, oh, we're done, the county's going to raise their mill levy to cover that cost, and taxpayers paying it anyway. I mean,
Well, yeah, but then it's the entire county paying it.
it's offset a little bit, but but I do understand what you're saying. On the mill levy, to me, it's pretty simple. I mean, when you talk a flat mill levy, you could stay mill levy flat for 10 years and still just continue to capture the new valuations at that level. But at the end of the day, it's about, as the commission, about seeking efficiencies, and under state statute, you know, we set the budget. And
Oh, no, I understand. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just one of the 5 of us, right? So, you know, my vote carries only one, you know.
20%. I'll give you
20%.
the number, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's,
So,
And you know,
sorry, go ahead.
And I do agree there's a need to not stay revenue neutral. I've originally voted no on that just because of the incoming increases in healthcare and capers and so forth. And, you know, our employees need a raise that we can give them reasonably. But I just feel like we could do better than mill levy flat.
Feel free to speak, Brad.
Spoke about this about 4 times today already. I'm going to respectfully disagree with that. And as a citizen and as a city manager of this city, my job is to watch over what we do. I'm not going to lie, there's been unneeded spending over the last several years. It's not a secret. People's talked about it. It's been documented and everything. But I would hope you all can trust me of the job that I've done so far and the job that I'm going to do, that I will watch the pennies so the dollars will keep going. And the things that we put on our capital are the things that we need, not are the things that we want. If we wanted, we'd have a new barn out the golf course. We'd have new trucks at the at Public Works. We'd have a new dump truck or 2 or 3 dump trucks because we're so far back there. We'd have more police cars than we have. We'd have a police chief that's not driving a truck right now that the door falls off when he opens it. The things that we put on our capital expenditures are desperately needed. The concrete pad and carport, that is so we can keep the equipment that you've allowed us to buy off of the rock, off the chat, to where we have a place to work on it, to where the guy's not in the mud and in the dirt. The golf course has very little for their next year's expenditures. The cart path improvements, if we want to mark that off, okay, we mark that off. We'll just do them in bricks. We've done 2 sections already in bricks. Our guys are getting pretty good on it. But a cart path that is concrete, that sells your golf course.
Yes, it
You've been to
does.
many.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
it does.
that's our vision of growing that golf course, is by making the cart paths better and better. Now, how many citizens play golf? You don't, I don't. We don't play golf. So is that something we need? I don't really know. But as something that we could drive revenues with.
well, it does bring money in from
Yes,
out of town as well.
that drives revenues.
We
So
really
that's why.
feel like the pothole patcher that we're currently using, we have to replace that with a whole new truck.
That's just a truck that goes with the machine. That's not the pothole patcher, that's the dump truck. Yeah, it's the one we're driving currently is not very nice at all.
That's
on
also
its
paid,
last leg.
it's also purchased out of the street and highway fund. It's not out of the general fund.
And like I said earlier, dropping the mill levy is not going to drop our taxes. I'm sorry. It's not. I hope the citizens understand that. We can drop our mill levy by a half. That's not going to drop our taxes. Unfortunately, I have to pay those taxes too. It's not going to drop it.
Well, it does incrementally. I mean,
It's
on a
not going to
micro-
drop it. Your taxes are going to raise still.
So if you pay a 0 mill levy, you're not paying any taxes, Brad?
Who
That's
else?
not true.
Did you see the dollar? We drop ours half. College raises 2. We're still paying taxes.
That's for the voters to
But
figure out.
that's the taxes that we're paying. It's a whole package deal. So if everybody in Fort Scott went mill levy flat, your taxes are still going up because of your valuations. So what are you gaining by dropping a half a mil? I don't, please explain it to me. Because what you're seeing done, Van Fossen, intersections, water lines, if you want that to continue going, we've got to continue funding.
It's not so much a question of what's being done or what's not being done. It's an issue of what can citizens afford. If you look around town, do you think citizens can shell out another $200,000 in
Going mill
property
levy
taxes?
flat, going mill levy flat, what's that going to increase me?
I don't have the calculation to say what's going to increase you individually, but it's an additional draw of property taxes at a time of hyperinflation. And some of our sales tax, while that could be new growth, that could be largely because our citizens are struggling with groceries, they're struggling with bills. That has to factor into a decision to stay mill levy flat and not evaluate should it be lowered.
A half mil is not going to help that.
It helps send the message that we're continued to be focused on lowering it. Every year for the last few years, that's been the commission's policy. And
you
maybe commissioners
ought
want
to really hope inflation stops in.
Yep.
Because that's what's going to happen. I mean, that's what's going to happen. You're going to continue dropping. And by gosh, you heard one commissioner, not here, say, I dropped at 7.7 per, mills. You know what? That entity struggled.
They're in trouble right now.
So
well,
we are
they
looking
dropped
very
it
good
without
right now.
controlling
Picking
their
up some of that slack.
expenses. So
If the cut was being made of, let's say, a half mil or whatever to me, because there were no concerns about everything we still wanted to get done in 2025, what we're looking at with inflation, where the evaluations came at. But if we're voting to reduce it, is just a symbolic gesture. We've promised to reduce it.
it's no symbolic
Every year.
gesture, I honestly believe.
Well, I mean,
we
I
should
don't think,
say
I think,
revenue
Ben, I don't know if you
neutral,
got a
but
calculator that could say if someone had a $75,000 house and you dropped it half a mil, I mean, if you left it the same going forward this year, what would that amount be?
We dropped it a half.
No, if you left it the same and if you dropped it a half,
Well,
or the difference,
dropped it a half, it's $4 a year.
$4 a year.
well, that's $4 in someone's pocket. It's the age-old adage of, what do you think government should be? That's why us five are sitting here. But
Yeah.
I'll finish with this. Whatever you vote, I respect, and I'm going to keep managing the way I'm managing.
I wouldn't expect nothing less.
So, like I said, I've talked about this 4 times today, and I'm actually starting to confuse myself. So, like, I will respect your votes, no matter what you do, and let's just go forward.
Brad, I'm not going to argue that we don't need the services that we have currently.
And I agree, we
and
do need to look at what you talked about.
Yeah, if
And that is something we really need.
that's my ask of you is, hey, maybe sometime over the next 3 years while I'm still on the commission, right? Maybe let's look at a transition where at least the county is paying their equitable share.
Or has a plan to migrate to their own system.
I really
to actually
believe
provide
a
the
joint,
services that they
I
are
think a joint
statutorily
meeting ought to be,
required to provide.
I think a joint city commission, county commission ought to happen like we used to. We haven't had one for a long time.
Is there anyone in the audience that, it's a public hearing, that wanted to say anything about the
2025 budget?
2025 budget going once? Okay, with that said, I would move to close the public hearing.
Seconded.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Matthew Wells?
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury?
Yes.
Jim Van Hooky?
Yes.
Tracy Dancer?
Yes. Okay, do we need another hearing to adopt the budget?
First, we'll need to deal with the resolution to exceed revenue neutral rate.
And I'd like to state, we have a blank resolution on here that doesn't state at the bottom what our mill rate will be, so, and whoever makes.
Lisa's got the updated copy. Yeah, and I mentioned the numbers that'll go into it in the top and the bottom.
Yeah,
And they're
so-
typewritten in there, so they can't be made.
Whoever makes a motion, I'm just stating this for my part, if it's mill levy flat, my vote is no.
Well, the motion would be, the consideration would be resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
Yes, but in that,
You gotta have the-
you include your revenue neutral rate and you include the rate you're adopting.
And I didn't have that here in
And
front of
on
me.
the what
I
we're
mean,
provided, it's blank.
Yep, that's true.
Oh. Ben just said
the-
that we have the number.
Yeah,
44.208.
Yeah,
Is that right?
the top blank that the commissioner's referring to is 41.362. The bottom blank, as it stands on the floor right now, is 44.208.
44.208, which is mill levy flat.
That's correct.
And wait for Commissioner Wells to get back.
No, let's tell him we voted on it while he was out and it passed.
He slipped you his proxy, right?
Yeah.
If there was proxy, yeah.
So we're going to keep mill level flat. The resolution needs to include that it remain at 44 point, the mill rate will remain at 44.208. Okay.
Well, while we're waiting, if I may say something, while I appreciate that, the commitment to wanting to go down, and I know that everyone would appreciate having less expenditures for their house, hold and stuff, and everything else I want to say said tonight, and obviously, Tracy's point about cutting that service and our payment on that service. Just to go back to something I said a couple weeks ago, and it also came up again tonight too, that there have been a lot of things that weren't taken care of for a lot of years, and it falls to us. And in our commitment here now, our social contract to be in the city, if we want to see all these changes continue, we want to fix Memorial Hall, it's probably not the time to cut back, even when it's $4. I mean, that's just my thought, you know what I mean?
Well, it furthers my argument about broadening the tax base.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right, since Commissioner Wells is back, I will make a motion for consideration of resolution number 26, 2024, resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate with a 2025 mill rate of 44.208.
I second.
Matthew Wells?
The message that we send to the citizens is purely that because of the increased valuations in property tax, there will be an increase of revenues this year anyway. We're looking at somewhere around a $60,000, $61,000 surplus as the budget sets. And I feel that we could be effective as the city, still complete the task laid before us, and come down off that mill levy to show the citizens that we are doing everything we can on our part to try to shave. So at the mill levy of 44.208, I am a no. We can come down off that a little bit. That changes everything.
Catherine Salisbury?
Yes.
Dylan Olson?
Nope.
Tim Van Hookey?
Ben, is that estimate of a $60,000 reserve? Because based on what I looked at, do you think that's correct? No. Before I vote?
The second report that was sent out by Lisa has $1,894 surplus.
Okay, that's percentage-wise, that's pretty significant from $60,000. Okay, my vote is yes.
Tracy Dancer?
Because we don't have another plan, and we need the services, and we need to continue making improvements to our community. And we don't have another way forward. Yes.
I got a question. What you two asked there, 60,000 versus 1,000. What did you not get to see the same thing?
Not, I guess there is a newer one than the last one I received today, because the last one I received today still showed a budget surplus of $61,177.
61,000 versus what you said?
There was a new version.
New version, I think it was.
I guess there was a new version
2:30
sent
today.
out this afternoon that I have not had an opportunity to look at yet.
It went out in email, and then that's what the printed
The-
version on.
That's what I got, 61,177 on both of them.
The one that's in the packet is 22,773, so I'm not real sure where the 61,000 came from. The one that was sent out, earlier, or the later, was $1,598 surplus.
1,590.
Or $894. That was the second one. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm
No,
just
and
saying
that's
those are the two
fine.
I've
Like I
got.
said, that last one that came out,
Yeah.
I apologize with it being today and
Yeah.
not getting it till
Yeah.
after 12 noon.
That's the agenda, that's the budget that's in the
In the
agenda uploaded to the
packet,
public
yeah,
side.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between the one that came out at, 2:20 this afternoon
Yeah.
versus the one that was in our agenda that we all had the opportunity to look over. So, and it's just
I don't want to put you on the spot, but you said what, 20 what?
22,773.
What would your vote been? I want to put you on the spot. You don't have to answer it. Say that you don't.
I was going to ask
If
him
we could have
that.
lowered the mill to 43.9, I would be a yes. That is the number from looking over the budget that I feel we could be successful at with the city for this year, bringing that in taxes with the increase in evaluation and still showing the citizens that we could shave a little bit off.
How about we save one more brick street for you?
I'd be very happy with that.
There you go.
And I
We'll do what, we'll do
the
the
citizens,
best we can.
yeah,
to
the
save
citizens knowing that the extra money that's going to be coming in is going to be applied towards infrastructure repairs, water, sewer,
Well, that
and
shouldn't have
roads.
nothing to do with brick streets, because brick streets should be paid for with sales tax.
money. Well,
I think he was just,
Not all.
he was kind of making a light.
He was making
light
a
joke
ha-ha.
to break the tension in the room. But, I mean, there is that consideration and understanding, and Brad did a great job of explaining that to the citizens, that the extra money that's going to be brought in this year, they plan on using that for infrastructure repairs almost exclusively.
Well, and I'm hoping that the citizens can see, I mean, I love the signs all over town where the road work's being done.
except for the two that got stolen.
Except for another one's been
Somebody
stolen.
lives a lot.
But, I mean, I'm getting a lot of positive feedback about that. Matter of fact, like I said, I think you weren't here last meeting, but I'm actually getting to a point now, there's so much stuff being done that I'm thinking I'm back up in Overland Park again. I'm driving
guys
around
are
going,
doing-
holy crap, another road
You
closed?
guys are doing a great job. They're doing very good.
I'm just saying, we've all looked through these budget numbers, we've gone over them. I believe that there was enough that we could have shaved down to at least a 43.9 on the mill levy and still been successful.
Even if the difference was symbolic.
Well,
You
some
keep
people
saying
say it's symbolic, but
It's not symbolic to someone that's struggling to
Yeah,
pay their rent or pay.
it took a few years for them to go where we were, clear up to this 44. Over the last few years, little by little, we've been able to whittle this down. Now, if we stay on that trajectory for another 10 years, we continue to make an impact on the amount of taxes, and the citizens will see that.
Yep.
I mean, for some people, it's only $8 more being added next year.
But there's another side of that too that concerns me, and it's not, I'm not minimalizing any savings that somebody can get. But for many, many years, like I think Brad was saying, there was an entity that shave down, shave down, shave down, shave down. Now, eventually you're going to get to that point, especially where the economy is. And I'll give you a perfect example, was we had done so little with our water systems and stuff. Look at what we've had to do now for water rates and things like that. Do we want to get to a point where we have to do that for the mill levy as well? So
No, but the other entity did not budget accordingly with the cuts that they made. They kept spending at the same amount and made the cuts. My ask is that we shave the amount needed out of our budget so our budget matches what we're asking for in our mill levy, not just randomly cut it and say, hey, we'll make the money up somewhere else, or let's come up with additional revenue streams, whether that's us providing utilities through the citizens via electric or gas, or we take over the trash system, or we do something else where we can increase revenues. I am always in favor of lowering taxes and finding a different way.
as am I, and if we get to a point where reasonably the city can provide those services, I'll be first in line to say, okay, how many mills do you want to cut? But you got to have that in place first. You can't put the cart before the horse. You've got to have the process or what you're going to do in place. At that point there, I'm all on board. But with that said,
I just want to say one thing, since it keeps getting referenced about the county budgeting and then spending
no, we
more.
said an entity, we didn't say.
Well, I'm saying the county because everyone knows. Look, if you approve this budget and you spend more than you budget for, you're spending more than you budget for. Now that comes back to the commission. We have a spending policy over $10,000. So when the city spends something more than $10,000, a commissioner or three of them say, yes, you can spend that. That's how budgets get blown. And that's what happened there. So you can't compare the two. I mean, if you set a budget that's lower than this, you keep yourself constricted to that budget.
Oh, no, you can't. It's business 101. If you keep lowering your prices and lowering your prices and lowering your prices and costs are going up, eventually it doesn't work, whether you're municipal government, because just like tax evaluations go up, so does interest in a product or in a service that's being offered. And then
No one said you lower. We're not going below revenue neutral. That'd be a lowering. You're taking new revenue.
Yeah, we're not
Commissioner
even
Van Hook.
suggesting staying revenue neutral, which would mean that we spend the exact same money this year that we spent last year. Currently, our budget for this year is a lot more than it was last year.
And we're going to get some things
ju-
done.
I just wanted to clarify that because I keep hearing these
How much more?
vague things put out there.
So with that said, item B that's on here, consideration to adopt the budget itself. This isn't the mill rate, this is just the budget, correct?
The budget.
You got to open and close a public hearing.
Well,
And then adopt or approve
I didn't
the
think,
budget.
okay.
There's two
Motion
public hearings.
to open the hearing.
I'll move to open the consideration to a public hearing for consideration to adopt the 2025 budget.
Seconded.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Matthew Wells.
Yes.
Tim Van Hook.
Yes.
Dylan Olson.
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. All right.
Ben, to Brad's question, do you know?
Yeah, there's it's around 25 million, but $2024 budget's $21.5 million 25 budget.
So about a
This actually went down.
About a $4 million increase? Drop, okay.
From 24 to 25, yeah.
So we dropped from 24 to 25.
Yeah, it was mostly in debt service and capital outlay. We got some big projects in 24 going on.
Right.
They'll roll over to 25, but
And our cash carryover at the end of the year?
it's around 1.6 is estimated.
0.6? Okay.
Mhm.
Is there anyone here that would like to address the commission for the public hearing to adopt the budget. Jason, do you want to raise? You want to come up and talk?
The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the 2025 budget.
We have to close.
We have to close the public hearing.
Oh, yeah.
Public hearing first.
All right, I'd move to close the public hearing for consideration to adopt the 2025 budget.
Second.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury.
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. Okay. Now, will someone make a motion to approve the 2025 budget?
I'll move to adopt the 2025 budget as presented to us by Baker Tilly.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Matthew Wells,
No.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Nope.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. All right. City manager, do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, I do. A couple things. Memorial Hall barricades are up. Midco should be starting to work on the facade at Memorial Hall as soon as possible, but the fencing's up for extra safety and precautions. We did have a water leak in Memorial Hall the other day. Unfortunately, when people aren't there, a lot of water leaked, so there was a lot of damage. Nothing of cost. It's just a lot of water that we had to dry out, and a lot of floorboards are wet and things like
Was the old Fort
that.
Genealogical Society affected?
No, it was in the back by the boiler. We did start researching IT companies to have them come visit and make presentations to my staff and myself, like you discussed. Something about the dispatch systems I want to bring up. Yes, there is something about the dispatch, and it was brought up a couple years back, or at least a year back, at another entity's commission meeting that they were getting a good deal on that. And they are, but I agree with what Commissioner Olson says. It's kind of like what's the old stealing Peter to pay Paul? Stealing from Peter to pay Paul. I feel the best case to go with is to meet as a group with them and come up with a solution to trade out services. And some of the services that I'm talking about is asphalt. Having them asphalt for us. And we Commissioner Wells and I've talked, there are a few streets in Fort Scott that we could use asphalt on. Heilman, part of Heilman, Gun Park. Please help me, those roads out
10th
there.
Street, yeah.
What's that?
Richards,
Richards.
Arapahoe.
It's some of those, Arapahoe and Richards, they're deteriorating very fast. And if we could trade services, that may save the county and city money in that aspects. Would it be the amount that would cost to pay for those dispatch services? Maybe not, but it sure would help some. So I really feel that would be a good start. Not in '24 because asphalt season's over pretty much. But it's a good conversation to start off 2025 with.
Well, I mean, I was wondering, is it because they've worked up their budget, they've approved their budget, right?
I don't know if they've approved it or not. I don't know.
Not approved?
But
Okay. But is
asphalt,
is it a consideration for, for funding in their budget?
For dispatch?
Well, to be exchanging services at their expense.
That's something I'd have to talk to them. I'm not sure how they budget materials into their budget or asphalting, but I do know how they would budget communications, and that would be very hard for them now that the budget has already been,
And it might give
developed.
us the possibility of getting some additional infrastructure repairs done, partnering with the county, and trying to keep the avenue of good faith open between us and the county as we move forward. I mean, it's a difficult situation that we're in with the new incoming commissioners, not knowing yet what their ideas and intentions are. We still have to do not only what's best for Fort Scott, but for Bourbon County as a whole. So
I really feel we should be working more together. Why do we pay a firm from Kansas City to come in and do rock work when we have Bourbon County that does rock? That would be something we need to talk to them about after the first year. So that's that. Cape Seal Company will be here Wednesday to talk to me and some of the staff about starting Cape Seal next week. We'll be doing a pre-con meeting, going around looking at all the areas that Cape Seal will be starting. So that's coming down. Unfortunately, that's more road construction, but that's progress. That's what I'm using. Every time I get a phone call and, I haven't had too many complaints, but when they do, I just, it's progress. Sorry. It's what you deserve. So, it's good progress. Then we'll get the street striper out and start striping some streets. So, good things going. I appreciate all 5 of you. Thank you very much. I know that's the worst part of the job, I do believe, right there is the budget, but that's the biggest part. And, we will penny pinch as far as we can, hold the staff accountable as much as possible, and do with what we've got as much as we can. So I appreciate all 5 of you trust, and we'll go forward. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you, Brad. Jason?
Commissioners, just the only update really is Horton Street. So it started focusing on sidewalk work there from 6th towards 8th Street. So that's kind of going. I've been working with the city to sort out a little stormwater issue there at 7th. So we're going to talk about that probably after this meeting briefly and get a solution moving forward, I think. So, because there'll be, as he said, asphalt season's coming to a close, so we want to get the pavers in there to get that exposed area paved over. So, but progress is still on schedule. But pending any questions from you guys, that's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I do have one question. When does the next phases of C-CLIP open for the state? Is that in the next spring? Is there another one in the fall?
C-CLIPs are once a year. The cost share is twice a year. So
when will we have to be ready to go out for that phase again on Wall Street? Or
so they're usually March. Deadline's towards the end of March. So
early next year we'll have to start getting that ready? Okay.
Yep, and we'll have, we've basically got that all kind of laid out. So once it's time, we'll put that together and get it through Brad and the city with you guys.
Okay.
So you said cost share, sorry, were you done?
No, I'm done.
Cost share, we got the one for East National.
Correct.
When's the next one?
It'll be, well, probably they should advertise, I would think, this month.
Okay.
So
We'll go after Broadway?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
We'll have one, we'll have a good one.
Okay.
To go after.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Which commissioner would like to go first tonight? I've never asked that question.
Matthew would. He missed the last couple of meetings because he was out of the country.
I can go first, yes. You know, one great thing about this body of people is that we can disagree on different aspects, and that doesn't affect the way we feel about each other or about this community. I know that everyone here at this table works hard for these citizens, and we don't get anything but heartache and consternation in a reward. But that's not why we do it. We do it because we love this community and we love these people.
We're getting a 20% raise this year. 20% is zero.
I'll take it. And I know, Brad, that you will use what you are given to the best of your ability, and that I don't think anyone would in any way accuse you and what you've been doing of being wasteful or going, outside that area, because we've seen what you've done. We see the numbers every week when we go over these. We see how hard you've been working for everybody, and we're very thankful for that. So just wanted you to know that my desire to trim comes from a fiscal responsibility of a conservative principle to the citizens. And that's it. And I believe you're going to use what we've given you to do great things here in this coming year. So thank you all for continuing to be civil and for working for what's best for our citizens and keeping them in the forefront of our minds as we move forward, because we are a community of like-minded and different-minded people, but that doesn't mean we can't work for the common good of everyone at the same time. So God bless you all. God bless Fort Scott.
Thank you. Mr. Van Hookey?
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what Matthew said, I know all of us do our research, and all of us, are absolutely try to be fiscally conservative. Just, because we disagree with each other doesn't mean any of us is wrong, because we don't have a crystal ball to see what's actually going to happen. Some of us look at what they think is going to happen based on the projections out there. Other ones look at they think it's going to go another direction. All you can do is vote with your heart. I always love to give people a reduction. However, this year, myself personally, because I'm going to pay more, is what's the best to go forward to make sure we can keep up the progress. So I'm not saying anybody's right, anybody's wrong. It's not an easy decision. And the only other thing I would say about that is this commission does work very well together. They're very civil to each other. Brad communicates with us very well, but I know, we had some folks in here on a subject this evening, and we all know there's a couple of other subjects looming on an upcoming decision that we're going to have to make. And one thing that this commission has done a very good job with so far is doing what's right and breaking the mold at times from, well, somebody else got to do this, so we should be allowed to do it as well. And then you're just stuck in that traffic circle. It never changes. And it takes guts to vote in a way that's not going to be popular, and to break that circle of, he got to do it, so why shouldn't I? Or this got put here, so why shouldn't this be able to be put here? It's not easy. It doesn't make you popular, but I commend the 5 that sit on here that reach out to the community, get their feedback, get their concerns, and they're real concerns. And we're not just pushing anybody's feelings aside or concerns, but trying to break that mold and make the right decision when it applies. And with that, I appreciate everyone's efforts, because everyone obviously took a lot of time this year to dig into the budget to try and do what's best for the citizens of Fort Scott. And that's all I got.
Okay. Commissioner Olson?
No comments.
Okay. Commissioner Salisbury?
Sure. Well, yes, and I was going to say this anyway, but I guess I'll just echo that I've seen nothing but responsibility from Brad so far, and everyone that's come in for the city has been able to explain their points. So I know that the money I feel confident that the money we give them to work with is going to be handled, responsibly. So that was one of the reasons why I voted the way I did. And then Commissioner Wells was out of the room, but what I was saying earlier, that while I want us to be able to cut, and everyone would like to have more money back in their households, because we have so much going on and so many people for so many years before weren't doing things, we really need to come back in. I mean, we're looking at possibly having to spend a couple $100,000 on saving a building. And it just didn't seem like that was the time to pull back. It seemed like the time for progress. So that's where I was on my vote. And then for a second thing, just adjacent to the lake, the gentleman that were on the trolley with Wes here tonight, and I never really did vocalize this out to anyone else, but when we decide what to do about the encroachments out there, I would hope that we could be respectful of the time and money and effort that some of those individuals have done to take care of this roads that were actually the city's to take care of, and we didn't. And we haven't really, I would say.
Which roads, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but which
in those
roads?
little, where they live, they would.
Well, my understanding is an access road is just an easement that doesn't.
Well, I'm just going what I was told. I thought that was the city's responsibility. Is that not the case?
I'll be honest.
It's just allowing them access to an otherwise inaccessible.
I've been told it's ours. And
It's just allowing access to an otherwise inaccessible plot. You're allowing an easement through.
That's just what I've been told. That
But
I'm
who-
going to disagree because I'm hoping you're right.
The city don't
I bet
maintain.
you are.
The city don't maintain
No,
everyone's private driveways.
I'm hoping you're correct
Okay,
because
well-
I don't have to maintain.
My driveway's an access drive
Yeah.
to my
So
yard.
I'm hoping you're correct, but that's not what they think.
Okay.
I'm hoping you are.
So my thought here is
so-
based on what I had been told was that it was
Yeah.
the city's, and if it's not, so be it. But if it was our responsibility and we weren't doing it, and also if we looked at, I'm not sure I would say the city has been a fantastic neighbor as far as taking care of our land out there. It's pretty overgrown. If it hasn't been, basically, I just want to make sure that we're being respectful of what they put into it, if that was something they shouldn't have been having to do, and not be like, oh, let's give us back our land now too, even after you did all this. So I just want us to, I guess, find out, first of all, if that was our responsibility, and then second, maybe find out what we could do to be an equitable exchange on that, if at all possible. I know we have to open sales up to the whole public, but I don't know. I would like to take care of those people. They took care of the land out there. So that was very inarticulate.
It's the understanding of the residents, and this is when I first came on, that the access roads are the cities.
You're
We've-
allowing them access.
I
through
totally
city
understand what you're
property.
saying, but their understanding is that they are the city's roads. Even the county has expressed to us they would take them over as long as the city got them up to par to be taken over.
par,
Now,
like paved
what
with
I
gravel?
So
will
if you
do-
live in the country and you
what I
have a
will do is
mile-long
see what we can
driveway,
find
does the
out.
county come put gravel down for you? No.
No, I think
You're
you'll-
allowing them access to their property through public land,
Yeah.
I'm just saying what I've heard.
which is why
And I hope you're right, because then we don't have to maintain them. But I think we need to probably investigate it a little bit more, and I can do that.
I think
I'm
you'll
sorry I
find-
brought it up.
Well,
No,
no,
Catherine,
it's a
you
good
just
point.
cost the lake residents maintenance on their roads out there.
because it's labeled an access road. I think it will be discovered that just like every other access road to a cell tower or whatever, it doesn't matter whose property that access road goes across. You gave them permission to make an access road across that piece of property, but you don't have to maintain it just because you gave them the access across that property.
That's all good by me.
Yep, yep.
That's what I was told, so I.
that
we
would,
can have
that
our-
would be like us partitioning a corner out in Lake Fort Scott and selling it. Someone builds a big log cabin and we say, well, you can make this curved access road up to your house. We're not forever entitled to maintain that road. That'd be the.
We might be nice enough to go in there and dump gravel on it once or twice because we're good people at the city. But I think we'll find that the financial responsibility does not lie with the city on access roads.
Bob, you've been here for 50 years. Have you ever experienced those access roads out there?
No, no one's ever had any discussion on it at this table that I
know I've
have
been
been aware
called
of.
several times.
Ever.
Again, I reiterate, I'm sorry I brought it up.
I only commented because I had a conflicting opinion.
Was that all you had, Catherine?
Yeah, oh gosh, I'm good for a few meetings, don't worry.
Because I was sitting here waiting for the next one. No, she is. She made a great point, too. Absolutely made a great point.
Somewhere in there.
Okay, hey, I just wanted to take a minute before we break to review the takeaways from tonight's meeting, as long as it has been. I'm sorry to ramble on. The meeting that we have coming up for Monday with the building owner for the barbershop. What we want from that is an affirmative or negative on whether or not the owner is going to take responsibility for the repairs on the building. Yes?
Or give us the property.
Yeah.
And if yes, how soon can he begin to put it in a safe condition?
Because I'm sure our codes officer and the other engineers will tell you, we're at a matter of months at this point.
Yep. Agreed.
And if I could ask, we're going to consider that a special meeting, correct? Because I will have to publish that.
Yeah.
Say it's no longer just bowing, there's cracking.
Well, and
occurring
it's
on-
separated another inch. since
And
a
that
couple
will be
weeks
here,
ago.
Lisa?
That'll be here,
That's here?
6 o'clock, correct?
6 o'clock on Monday. Okay.
So, to Lisa's point, we're going to make it a special meeting so that we have voting authority if we need to, correct?
Yes.
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 Okay. And Bob, my request for, review the legal process and costs associated with annexation, westward, not eastward, and south.
Is that,
And
are we
as-
including squaring the boundaries? If we're not going,
And including squaring the boundaries.
What-
And,
Industrial park and city properties. We're
and
gonna-
Commissioner Salisbury's request as well for even a ballpark of additional revenues that annexation would result in.
I believe there's a map out there somewhere
Did we
from
leave it on
prior
the
studies.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll get a copy of it to Bob.
Okay. I think we are still due, long overdue, for a discussion on what to do about lake lot encroachments, separate from lake lot platting and selling encroachments, whether we are going to consider selling those properties or if we're going to consider renting the properties for people to store their stuff that they apparently are already storing on city property.
I don't think we yet know what the legal options are. I mean, I know one thing we can do is, you could start by sending a letter out saying you have 90 days to remove your property from city property, or we will take possession of it, tear it down, or whatever. But when you get into the leasing side and the selling side, with it being city-owned property, the doing it privately without making a public offering.
No, by all means. I've like I said, let's have the discussion.
Okay.
Right? Let's have the discussion and determine what our options are so that we can pick one and pursue it. Because it is a problem. It will continue to be a problem so long as it is not addressed. So let's get around to the business of addressing it. All right?
Well, I would say unless this commission or another commission intends to do something with the land, what is the point?
What is the point is, where does it stop?
Well, it's, what's the point of doing anything if you're never going to do anything with the land? I mean,
Well, I mean, you
can
can get to the point, though. You can have the option to do something with the land, but you can't do that if you have other people that are occupying it right now. So the first step of the process is,
Okay.
At least lease it to them in the time being, since it's not their
I
property.
mean, it's a
If we
source
decide
of
to allow them
revenue.
to use it, let's lease it for, what, $200 a month? if they want to continue to use that until such a time as we
I'd-
decide whether we're going to sell that.
Maybe
land
we
or not.
consider that as an option.
They're going to lease it
instead
from
of
us
annexing.
for the use of that land, which is the city's land.
But let's have the discussion. All right? And last, before parting, I would like to reemphasize my trust and confidence in our city manager. I expressed during the candidate forums last year that it was my expectation, my hope, my desire that we would all entrust Brad Matkin to be the city manager, to enable him, to empower him, and to let him manage. And I think that, he's done a pretty stand-up job of that. So hats off to you, Brad.
Thank you.
And thank you. And I have nothing further. Bob, the floor is yours.
Well,
Okay.
all I'm saying, between the crowd we had in here tonight, between the lake annexation and other things going on, when you guys get around to canceling Christmas, I'm resigning.
We're not going to cancel Christmas. We're going to have an ice skating rink.
That's right.
That's right. All right.
A move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Do we have a second to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you.
Dylan Olson?
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey?
Yes.
Matthew Wells?
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury?
Yes.
Tracy Dancer?
Yes, thank you.